What is better than playing Clash Royale by yourself, just grinding ranked, trying to hit 10,000, 11,000, 15,000 trophies? Playing it with a friend, and that's what we're doing today. 2v2 all day for Clash Royale Center Stage. Hello, welcome. I'm Rich Slayton. That's my buddy Andrew Guy. And Andrew, we've had a nice little off season, and we're starting to kick off 2026 with a bunch of content creators jumping in the arena together to play some Clash Royale.
Yeah, I'm so excited. First event of the year, and we have Clash content creators, and we have content creators from other games. So if you've ever tried to get your friend to play Clash Royale with you, this is going to be a great introduction for them, because this is going to be so much about communication, Rich. And does the communication even matter? Do they know what the cards are? Do they know what the placement is? We're going to find out today in some incredible 2v2 battles. I can't wait to get into it, man.
Put the giant behind the tower. What's a giant? What's a tower? Well, they will find out today. They've been practicing together, but they are ready for the big one. Andrew, this is an interesting tournament. A little kickoff, a little warm-up for the season. Tell us what we're doing today at Center Stage.
Yeah, this is going to be a really exciting tournament of 2v2 battles. As we said, there's 8 duos out there. Each one will be one Clash content creator and then another content creator from a different game. 2v2 battles, as we said. So there'll be round robin going through best of 3s. That means every single team will play 5 matches. And then at the end of the day, we're going to figure out who has the best records for our top 2 teams in the grand finals. And Rich, it wouldn't be a Clash Royale event without a pretty insane prize pool for this super fun Pro-Am style 2v2 event.
Yeah, we've got a lot of money on the line. $75K for this tournament. Everyone walks away with at least $7,500 for their duo. But first place, $13,500 split between our champions. And this is going to be fascinating because that is no small chunk of change, Andrew. But as we talked about, we have Clash Royale creators, many of whom you watching at home will know. But then all of these non-CR creators, most of them are playing the game for the first time this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be so interesting to see how well they adjust and adapt to the gameplay of going up against, you know, some of them are pros. Obviously, if you're a content creator, you're spending a lot of time in Clash Royale in general. So there's going to be kind of a heavyweight and then like a featherweight on every single team. Who has the best communication? Who spent the most time in the game? And of course, there are a couple things in the game. There's only one Evo allowed per deck per team, which is a really important thing to note. There are going to be no heroes at all today in this competition, which I think is good. You know, you don't want to throw them right into the fire. You want them to, you know, slowly get into the game. And then the other thing is we have our modified duels format, Rich, which is something that you and I love, which means if you win with a deck, you cannot repeat that deck. But the caveat is the players could just switch the decks, right? So you could technically see the exact same 16 cards out on the field, just wielded by the other person on the team, which I think is really, really interesting because obviously you and I know learning those mechanics takes hundreds, thousands of hours.
Oh, yeah, and I watched some of their pre-streams last night as some of these duos were getting together and practicing, and you mentioned something really important, Andrew, there, the communication. How well can the Clash Royale creator communicate what to do to somebody who might be like, hey, put that there, and they go, I don't know what that is, and I don't understand where you're telling me to put it. So that's going to be fascinating to watch, and we have some really fun duos, especially if you know these content creators. Let's take a look at the lineup we have today. And starting things off, we have one of the OGs of Clash Royale content creation, OJ, paired with Dekkster, who is plays mobile card games. And then right below him, one of the newer creators to the Clash Royale scene in the last couple of years, Jacob Crabtree. Jake, we met at World Finals. And Rarran, who's another card game player.
Yeah, and then we have Reckers and Emilianth. And then we have SirTag and Zain. And also the other thing to note is there's no coaches in this. So all the Clash content creators are essentially the coach for each of these duos. And then the other 4 pairs that we have here, another exciting lineup of people. We have Boss, who has been a longtime pro, longtime content creator, pairing up with SpikeVegeta. We got our boy Juicy, caster, ex-pro, former world champion with Spragels. We got BenTimm going with Godzly, and then Ian77 with Aerith, who is a mobile FPS gamer, which is really interesting. I heard Ian talking about it yesterday. He's like, I feel like we could do really, really well as long as I can tell her exactly what I need her to do, but then I don't know if she's going to know what that means, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it in real time. So there's a lot of things going on, especially, you know, when you talk about that coaching, it's like playing while coaching is a different thing. A lot of these players obviously play while being coached. So this is going to be another wrench to throw in the mix. I'm really excited to see how well all these teams do, how well all these duos do. And honestly, it's great to see a couple females in the Clash Royale scene.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's going to be a nice piece into this puzzle. Now, when I look at these pairings, Andrew, I see a lot of really good teams here, and you mentioned the idea of the deck synergy, and we can talk more about that as we see these decks come in. I'm really excited to see our buddy Juicy with Spragels, because I have some experience with Spragels. He's a MOBA player, but I know he's also a really fast learner, and I think that he and Juicy, their communication styles really meld well. So I'm excited to see what those two can do as a 2v2 duo.
Yeah, and you know, everyone is going to take this very seriously today. As we said, $75,000 prize pool on the line, 13.5K to first place. But I will say about Juice is he's so competitive. He takes every one of these events deadly serious, and I'm very excited to see how much work he's put in. And as you said, with a good partner like Spragels, how far they can actually go in this. 2v2 is a really interesting format. You know, it's one of those formats that we've kind of come back and forth with over the years. Obviously, it used to be a part of the competitive scene in CRL, but you know, we had 2v2 ladder that has come into the game that people really, really love. So I'm just excited to see how much time a lot of these people have put in with 2v2. I mean, this is going to be the exact same as when you and I log in, we go to 2v2 competitive and just hit quick match for the most part. You know, they have very little time that they've worked together. How much synergy is there? How well is the communication going to be? I can't wait to see. And then the other thing that we got to mention, Rich, is obviously we're going to do some in-game giveaways with some QR codes. So that's another thing for all of you guys at home to be looking out for today. There's going to be rewards for our players and, of course, rewards for you guys watching here on the stream.
Oh, there we go. There's some rewards right now. So why don't you go ahead and get your rewards for this event and let us know what you're getting in the chat there. You probably will. Hopefully you'll get something cool. Are you scanning it right now, Andrew?
Of course I'm scanning
I could see. I saw your eye line leave the camera, and I was like, Andrew is getting his phone. He's 100%. I'm going to scan it, too. Let me go ahead and do it myself.
Look at that. Magic, lucky, chest. Oh, wow. Where's my screen?
Come over there a little bit.
There we go. Can barely even see it. There we go. ×3. So that is a great way to start this broadcast. Claim all obviously. Right. Oh, first thing, 4-star drop. Not bad. What do we get? What do we get? Oh.
Hey, whoa. Yo. All right. A couple Evo shards on your P.E.K.K.A.
That's not bad. That is not bad.
Let's see what I can get. I'm going to tap mine a few times.
What you got?
How many stars am I getting? I mean, I'm to 3. Okay, 3 ain't bad. Let's see. What are we doing? What are we doing here? And, hey, some Goblin Gang. Okay. 550 Goblin Gang. My GG is not maxed at all, so you can see it's level 14 right now. I don't play the gang that much, Andrew. I'm not a mortar bait player like you. I don't have a lot of the Goblin Gang going. Oh, I have another one of these. Yeah. Did you have a second, you have a second chest?
Yeah, I got 550 minions, and then here, I'll do my last one. It's going to be a 2-star. What do we got? Hey, I do love me some Dark Goblin out there in the world. Happy to get it. But 2 Evo shards is a great way to start my day. A banner.
Yeah, I love battle banner. All right, and then let's see. 1 star for my last one. What are we going for here? Minions. I'm actually running the deck with minions, so that's cool. That's cool. That's pretty rad.
You know, even with their nerf that came in, it seems like everyone is still playing minions. It's still super, super strong in the game, so very happy to get that. What did you guys get? Let us know in the chat. We love to see some good rewards out there. And like I said, the players get some stuff. We get some stuff for being here.
Yeah, we have our first matches coming up here in just a moment. Just so you know, all of these creators are also co-streaming on their own channels. So if you saw that list of content creators and there's someone that you really love or someone that you're interested in, all of their channels are also streaming this event, so you can see it both different ways. If you want to tune in, we'll be the ones casting here, but if you want to hear their conversation, the way that their communication works out, as we'll be talking about that a lot today, and you can fill us in. You can. I would love to know, like, hey, as it turns out, these two content creators are awesome at talking together, or wow, they were just yelling at each other for 4 minutes straight. It was chaos. Yeah, pure chaos.
And we're going to start off with Jake Crabtree and Rarran versus Ian77 and Aerith. That's going to be our first featured match of the day. And like I said, we're going to move through. You're going to see every single team at least one time. And then our last matchup, the 5th matchup, we're going to probably do the match that has the most on the line. Maybe there's 2 teams that have even records. You know, maybe there's 1 team that's about to be eliminated, whatever it might be. And then, of course, we have our grand final match as the 6th match of the day. So 6 2v2 best of 3s coming your way right now. Probably players are trying to figure out how do we request a 2v2 match. Well, hopefully the CR creators are in charge of doing that in the clan. Rich, anyone that you think's gonna run away with this at first glance of all the teams?
I mean, I'm going to go back to my pick of Juicy and Spragels. I think that they'll communicate really well together. Spragels is similarly competitive to Juicy. He's also an esports caster, right? So I think that Spragels has a lot of that vibe that they can work together. And the other thing, too, that Juicy might figure out, and I wonder if anyone figures this one out. When I watched some of these pre-streams yesterday, the ability to use spells for a new player is almost non-existent. Spells are nearly impossible for a brand new player. They don't understand the timing, and so I'm wondering if someone makes an adjustment and the like professional endemic creator takes the primary burden of spells, especially ones to be used defensive like Log, and takes that burden off of the new player.
That's a really good point, because you and I were talking before the broadcast, what kind of decksmanship are we going to see out here in this event? Is it going to be a lot of beatdown? Because beatdown's a lot easier to control for newer players. It's a lot more placement and kind of wait and see what happens and then respond, as opposed to micro interactions, which is something that is obviously, like I said before, you got to put in a lot of time for that. Back when there was the last 2v2 competitive ladder, I was watching Juice's stream, and he was with Baby Nate, who was a famous, minor Rocket player. But Nate basically ran an all spell deck with like drill, and then Juicy ran a more straightforward, or a more just a more like a deck that you would really see on ladder drill deck. But the whole thing was that Nate was like, Juicy, kind of play this as you would play drill normally in 2v2, and I'll cover all the spells and the NATOs and the rockets. And it was really, really interesting to watch like the highest level 2v2, because exactly like you're talking about, man, spells is really difficult to wrap your head around when you're new in the game and getting the most value out of them, right? We all know that if you miss a rocket, or if you're not poisoning the right thing, or you don't log late or early enough, things are just not going to work out the way you want. And things can go bad really, really fast in 2v2. So love that you brought that up. Really excited to see, I think that's the way you got to go. I think you got to give all the most difficult and maybe important cards to the Clash Royale creator, and then to the other creator, you give them the Lava Hound, you give them the Golem, you give them like the Musketeer, things that are a lot more straightforward in the game. And then I guess with Evos on each side of it, it'll be really interesting, because the Evos in the game right now, there's a lot of really good ones. Cannon is super strong. Evo Furnace is really, really strong. RG was always popular in 2v2, so we might see a lot of Evo RG. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this goes. It's the first event of the year, and this is a great way to start off the year.
Well, looking at our first featured matchup, you mentioned Jake, Crabtree, and Rarran against Ian and Aerith. Two very different approaches in the decks they've been preparing. As I've gone and done some research, Aerith has been practicing just grinding a very, very super thick Golem deck and some Lava Hound. He's basically been running very simple, like a Lava Hound, Inferno Dragon, Empress deck, and then like a Golem Xe deck. And that's been all that's on his profile right now. So kind of what you would think, right? Slow, heavy. But then on the other side of things, Jake and the Jailer, they've been doing their deck composition is fascinating. So they've been running a double giant skeleton clone deck, which is super 2v2 meme, right? Yeah. They've been running a double giant like multiple prince beatdown deck, which makes a lot of sense. But then the one I'm really excited to see if they pull it out, that's fascinating, is they're running a deck that Jake, the Clash Royale creator, is running a drill rocket cycle deck with like a double bait deck, but where the Jailer, where Rarran, he's running a Mega Knight hyper bait deck alongside it. And so it's just spam the hyperbait cards over and over and over again, and don't have him make any decisions. Just spam the hyperbait stuff. And I'm curious if that kind of, I'm not going to call it a brain deck, but I am going to say that kind of like, kind of one note, do one thing kind of deck might actually be good in a situation like this, even though you wouldn't think that's great for 2v2.
Yeah, and the other side of that conversation, when you talk about kind of giving the easier or heavier cards to the newer players, they're also more punishing when you misplay a 6 elixir card. So the idea of also going the other direction with Hyperbait, and then having a card that we all understand like Mega Knight, drop it on the board, squish everything underneath it, and then if it's Evo Mega Knight, knock everything back. Yeah, I'm so curious to see how things kind of play out, and we are going to be getting into the first match here in just a second. No surprise as people are kind of figuring out the UI, figuring out how to get into 2v2. Again, this is just like if you called up your best friend and you were like, yo, I need you to download Clash Royale right now. I know it. Nope. Just download it. I don't want to hear any talk back. And then you get him to get in the game and we're like, all right, we're going into 2v2 right now. These are the cards you're going to run. This is kind of what they do. And then, I remember introducing the game to some of my friends and watching them play, and you're just like, oh man, it is crazy. It is crazy how many levels. We talk about the top 100 and the levels there. These are people that have literally just installed the game this week. So I cannot wait to see this. And like you said, the chaos of the communication, I do wish we could hear that as well, but we'll probably be able to see it on stream.
Well, you can also, think about this too. you'll notice that they have a lot more cards than someone who started an account yesterday has, because they got their decks kind of like their accounts pushed up a bit to be able to play in this competition. And so you weren't just seeing the 8 cards you start with for this stream, which would be brutal.
They're like level 5.
So they didn't have the learning curve that you normally have of, hey, having to grind through and unlock cards. So the wealth of just information overload. I'm telling you, Andrew, I was watching this last night and watching them have to encounter and learn mechanics and cards in real time. By the time you usually get the log, you've been using arrows and fireball. Like, you've understood pieces of the game for a long time. Right. So it was fascinating to watch, but also that learning curve. They're trying to, instead of going here like normal, they're just going right up this way.
Yeah, and just because you have a great player on the other side of it coaching you doesn't mean, as you said before, that you know where the placement is, you know what the timing is. And also, this game moves really fast, right? The more that you do something, it kind of slows down. Well, they haven't done it a whole lot, so the idea of the game moving as fast as it does, if they are going up against something like Hyper Bait, I feel like we're going to see a lot of double spells out there. You know, if a barrel comes in, maybe 2 logs going down on it, things like that, or double poison drops, or missed rockets. You know, there's going to be a lot of things. It's going to be really refreshing for you and I. You and I have literally cast the top level, the top 1% of Clash Royale players for going on our 9th year now. I'm super excited about that. Okay, that's enough out of us. We're going into the game. Game number 1, best of 3. Ian and Aerith, Jake, Crabtree, and Rarran. Bottom of your screen there, the Jailer. Like that.
And we're a little bit behind on the opening here as a few seconds went away, but no surprises here. Aerith, as I said, was practicing Golem, so expect Exy to be in this deck for Aerith. There's the Musketeer. I believe she's running with arrows, Fireball, a mini P.E.K.K.A. So we'll see how she's able to hold on, and Ian just going to try to go support, probably playing Golem as well.
Yeah, like what we were talking about. Golem, Musketeer, these are very straightforward cards so far. NATO probably in the hands of Ian.
And this is probably, this is that double giant skeleton clone deck that Jake and Rarran were practicing. So you expect Ian to be ready for it, for some of these clones, and that's the clone push. And Ian has no elixir. Ian's been overplaying to try to compensate and control here, and that completely backfires. Tower down, and early on, the world finalist and his FPS partner are in trouble.
You see the hype there with Jake and the Jailer. Really good way to start. Just a minute and a half into the game. Already a tower down. And then speaking about defensive capabilities here, Giant Skeleton is great when you're in a 1-tower situation defensively, because you can just drop that Giant Skeleton at the bridge every time. Gonna get a little bit of Exy damage in here. And we see some leaked elixir top of your screen. Aerith probably waiting to hear what Ian thinks is the best play.
Yeah, I mean, you got to play into it, right? With playing Golem, play into it and play aggressive. At this point, I mean, you're entering double elixir, and also you got to make sure that someone has something for those clones. Oh my word!
And here we go, Golem at the bridge, trying to put a push together. Going to get that pancake love from the chef up to level 12. Here is this Golem, and kind of a last-ditch effort in the sense of only 44 seconds remaining. Nice lightning there.
Yeah, they don't have the NATO, though, to get the lineup on that Exy. The Exy is going to give absolutely no help here. The Golemites are going to do some damage, but I don't think they'll get it down into spell range here. And Ian might have to say, hey, throw your spells at that tower, but then they'll have nothing left to play defense.
Yeah, 576 remaining. They could take the tower with spells, as you're talking about here, Rich, but I just don't think they're going to be able to defend, as you also said. So good idea here to keep up the pressure from Jake and Rarran. Although this is a decent counter push, 576 remains. I would just try to get, I mean, we obviously see, lightning and fireball. That should actually take it.
Oh, the lightning doesn't, they need arrows. They need the arrows. Can they get the arrows? They cannot do it. 83 HP, game number 1 going to Jake and Rarran, and they are pumped.
Jake taking a lap around the room after a big win here. And yeah, I mean, that's what we were talking about before, right? That miscommunication at the very beginning of the game. You talked about Ian overspending maybe at the bridge, and then Aerith all on her own trying to figure out, what do I do against the Giant Skeleton? And then it gets clone push, something that we all know very well if you played the game for a long time. But if you're new to the game, you're like, why is the second Giant Skeleton on my tower now? It was so far away. Well, that's one of the things we love and hate about clone.
Yeah, that clone push situation is pretty brutal, and it worked out very well for them. And you think about this, and I was thinking about this looking at that hyper bait deck that I don't think Jake and Rarran go to next, even though they have it queued, because I think they might expect to go against Golem again. Or maybe they'll try to hope that they go a different direction. But I think that you'll see Ian and Emilianth run that back. But I think that they're probably going to go in. When I think about the hyper bait deck, the fact that one of the players is going to be so uncomfortable with spells, that deck, which doesn't usually work in 2v2 as well, might get a big boost just because of the chaos of that spell misuse.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, when you have a big beatdown deck, it's one of those things that's very straightforward. And as we just saw, even with Giant Skeleton Clone, it's kind of throwing in mechanics that you might not be familiar with. So the idea of speeding up the game a little bit might be a good idea here for Ian and Aerith to take game number 2. For them, I wouldn't hate if they did do something a little bit faster pace, right? Ian is a better player than Jake. I mean, obviously, he's a world finalist, as you said. And then on the other side of it, if you have two players that are new to the game, maybe just speed it up and try to create those mistakes. But down a game right now is our former world finalist, one of the best hog players in the world, Ian77. It's tough, man. The game moves really, really fast, and we saw how quickly things went awry in the beginning of that game.
Well, and again, I don't think we have replay available for this, but that moment, just thinking about how far back, maybe you're scrolling back in YouTube to see how Ian got so low on Elixir, because that was the big thing, was that big clone push came in and Ian was at 0 and his partner was at 7 as all those giant skeletons hit. So, you're sitting there, you're the guy who's the experienced player, and you've got nothing in the deck. You're just, the chamber is empty, and that put them in a really tough position.
Yeah, I'm looking here, and it looks like it was maybe just kind of an ineffective NATO to pull the defensive units forward. And obviously in 2v2, the elixir flows a lot slower. So you see Ian at 4, Aerith at 7 or 6, and then honestly, the guys just kind of sell out at the bottom of the screen. The giant skeletons drop right away, right in front of the baby dragon, and then they just go in. And you know what? The other part of it, Rich, is Aerith is the one with the tombstone. The tombstone was placed too far to the left, so it didn't pull the giant skeleton in. Had that happened, I think they would have been in a much better position. But as we're talking about those placements, when you're new to this, the tombstone has a different pull radius than the bomb tower, has a different pull radius than the cannon. All these different things that you kind of learn over the years of playing the game. So those are some of the growing pains that we're going to see today, and especially first match of the day, right? First game of the day.
Well, thinking about the next upcoming game, Jake and Rarran have been running this double giant deck with Dark Prince, some Furnace, some Lumberjack, but the way they've been running it, it's been Rarran, the less experienced player, holding the Inferno Dragon. And I do wonder about, the timing and placement of that Inferno Dragon. It's not the most key thing, like maybe if they were doing Inferno Tower, but it is one of those ones where, hey, if you get that wrong, that could spell the end, just like a misplaced tombstone.
One of the things I was going to say at the beginning of the game, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because it reminds me, or the beginning of the stream, was just, I wonder how much Inferno Tower we'll see today. I feel like it's a card that isn't super popular right now, but it's really strong in 2v2, and it doesn't have a lot of punishment misplays, right? It's pretty straightforward, and it's a great way to clean up big beatdown pushes. So we see here, going into game number 2, looks like Aerith has a smile on her face, trying to shake off that last little loss there, and immediately a golem in the back. And it looks like if you see their names have swapped, Rich. So Ian's now on the right side, it looks like.
Oh, interesting. Okay, and I like that they're going back to the Golem deck. Like, just keep it simple for the moment. Fireball to clean up something in the back. But this is the deck that I thought that Jake and Rarran should run of the ones they've been prepping. It has the Inferno Dragon to go for the counter. It has both the Lumberjack and Prince for some good single-target DPS. So there's some good stuff here if they can take advantage of it.
And Golemites are on the tower. That Phoenix egg should get reborn. I don't think enough time is going to... There we go. Phoenix does get reborn, gets on top of the Lumberjack for just a second. And a lot of Phoenix so far today.
Yeah. Oh, this Lumber X is going to chew through these Giants. There's a nice one later to clean things up.
And this game's starting at a much better pace here for our players at the top of your screen.
But look at this. This is one of those things that you have to keep in mind, right? The Executioner... The drop of the Heal Spirit coming from our non-endemic creator in Rarran lining up perfectly for executioner damage. So it's little things like that that
Yeah.
if you play a lot, you think about, but if you're brand new, you go, oh, I just need to stop this thing. And, well, the Xe throws that thing pretty far.
1595 on the bottom right-hand screen, 2243. Ian and Aerith in a much better spot here, and Zappy is such a good card. I mean, that's the other thing, is abusing cards that are really, really strong in the game and have been for a really long time. Zappies have been one of the most balanced and strong defensive cards in Clash Royale for years.
And they try to go opposite lane with the Giant right into a mini P.E.K.K.A. who will make short work of the big fellow. One punch comes in, but the real trouble is on the right-hand side. They still have to control this mini P.E.K.K.A. And they have to use the single target Prince there.
This Golem's going to get to tower and pop once again. With that damage at level 12, that's great damage to come in. Wow, Goblin Curse coming down and a defensive Lightning. So a lot here spent and a lot of damage taken.
Yeah, that tower is in trouble, and they will not have difficulty getting that all the way down. So now Jake and Rarran need to come up with something, and they might just sack that tower on the right-hand side and try to push in. No, they Valk up high and want to force the elixir expenditure.
Interesting there. It looked like Aerith was waiting for Ian to tell her what to do. She leaked 5 elixir and then finally drops a card in the back. Gonna actually clean everything up here pretty well on the left-hand side, and now kind of a desperation Prince at the bridge. I doubt Ian's gonna let that connect. He goes NATO first. Now we need something else to come down.
Oh boy.
There might be enough time here.
Oh my.
There is enough time. Wow, a last-second tower take.
And they are deep onto that Golem too, so they're gonna do some good work on that Golem and its own side of the board, and this just changed in a heartbeat, and that's a last-second save. I am so glad to be back casting Clash Royale in 2026.
I know, I missed it. Golem in the pocket, Giant Prince opposite lane. That Prince is going to get pulled back defensively here, and the Giant is untouched on the right-hand side. Mini P.E.K.K.A. does come down.
The
and
Evo
I'd
Valk
love
was...
to, when we get there, to see a replay of that final 10 seconds of regulation, if it's possible.
Evo Valk saved everything there. Just pulling that
Evo
whole
Valk
thing
in
back.
the hands of the endemic creator is actually something that's really interesting to think about moving forward. That is such a strong defensive card, and it looks like it's in the hands of the jailer here, but I'd love to see it in the hands of someone like Ian or Juice.
But still able to play it high in the middle and did the exact right thing, did Rarran. So it worked out pretty nicely.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Now,
this is a huge. There's no way to save this on the left-hand side.
And we're all tied up going to game number 3.
Really interesting. And it looks like we won't get the replay, but that is no problem. I think we all saw it go down. Just that it was like, you know, when you have kind of a brain freeze, not sure what to do, didn't know which card to play best to defend, but it ended up working out. You know, it's kind of like when someone does a last-ditch effort in regulation with spells, right? And they overspend. Kind of felt like Ian and Aerith were in control for most of that overtime. And then the other thing is, you know, Golems being played at the bridge or in the pocket is so much more effective than a Giant. Obviously has more HP, and then sometimes all you want is that death damage. The death damage was the big decider for a lot of that match, and here we go. Game number 3 to start the day. You love to see it.
So now we know that Aerith has used one of the 2 decks that I know she practiced a ton. So now we expect her to go to Lava Hound. I mean, they have to have something else. You have to have 2 decks planned. So I don't know if was their game plan of, hey, just master these 2 decks and play nothing else, because you don't technically need 3 decks for a match. So she has a Lava Hound, Inferno Dragon, Empress deck plan, where she also is running poison and arrows in that deck. So I know she's been grinding that one, playing 2v2, like random matchup 2v2s, and playing solos on ladder with it. So we'll see if she can put it together with that one, but that's the expectation, which then raises the question of, did Jake look at Royale API? Did he look at these other people? Because I did it. I did my. I know what's coming next. Are you ready, Jake?
Yeah, you would hope you would hope so, because they're the coaches of their respective squads. And if anyone's wondering what we're talking about in terms of, you know, dual mode, modified dual mode, you cannot play the same deck that you won with, but you can repeat the cards from the deck that you lost with. And if you guys won with a deck, you could just swap. You could just swap those 8 cards to the other person. So yeah, I'm really curious to see which way they go. I would love to see some Lava Hound. I think it's a great way to go. Let's take a quick look at the decks that we've seen so far. And here we go. You can see
these are the decks from the previous match.
And on the right side, it's like I haven't looked at 2v2 decks in a while on the battle results. So the right side is going to be Jake and Jailer. Jake on top, Jailer on the bottom, and then Aerith top left. And I really like what Ian did here. It's kind of exactly what you talked about, Rich, is, you know, those higher skill cap cards like the Xe, like the NATO, knowing when to, I mean, having Zappies in the hand of both players, I think is really, really smart, which means that Zappies are not going to be available here in this final game. Golem not going to be available in this final game, which they've been going to. What does feel like they probably need to go to the skies, and I would love to see that. A lot of people have been talking about how Lava's pretty strong in the meta right now. I actually haven't seen a lot of Lava in the meta, but obviously this is 2v2, so a little different. And, you know, we haven't seen any Inferno Tower yet, which I wonder about that. It feels like Inferno, especially now that Lightning is out from their opponent's deck pool, if they want to go with either Inferno Tower or Inferno Dragon.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That I do like that for not having to worry about that version of the reset. Really curious to see if they go that way. And I'm pretty sure Lava had at least one top 10 finish in the previous season too, didn't it? I'm trying to remember the top 10 decks.
Yeah, I'd have to go take a look. There was a lot of really, I mean, obviously the meta has been kind of crazy right now. It's like very hero heavy, if you will, you know. Sure. So looking at the difference here, not having heroes available, not having 2 Evos available, it's really interesting to see. I mean, it's so rare that you even see a regular mini P.E.K.K.A anymore, but still mini P.E.K.K.A very, very effective in this last game defensively, especially for Ian and Aerith, and getting it behind the golem was really nice. So I do like that they are using the pancake tower, at least one pancake tower. Yeah. I think that does kind of stir things up a little bit as we hop into game number 3. Who's going to walk away with the first best of 3 of the day?
And I just went and double checked it. 3 of the top 10 finishing decks in the January season were Lava on ranked. The 6th, 8th, and 9th finishers. 2 of those, I believe, both being Doom. So good season for the longtime Lava player.
And Tombstone in the hands of Aerith once again. Oh, no, excuse me. This time in the hands of Ian. And I really like coming out with AQ, Archer Queen, knowing that Lightning isn't available for either player. That means that Rocket is going to be the best way to take her off the board, but Rocket also a pretty difficult card for newer players. And Rich, it looks like you called it here with the Spirit Empress and the Goblin Cage, going to be going to the skies, but probably not too happy to see the Executioner, the E-Spirit, the Archer Queen. A lot of really good ways to stop lava pushes.
Yeah, I didn't see this one as one of the decks that Jake and Rarran were prepping, but I also didn't go through every single one of their decks. They definitely went deeper on the deck pool, and we'll see if that pays off for them or not.
And an early poison out here to kind of help clean everything up on the board. The lava pup's going to need some attention still, and there's some arrows. So got a lot of responses here, does the blue team at the bottom of the screen.
Interesting. I'm curious what the changes for Aerith, because in the deck that she was running in practice, she was running Valk, and we see the Valkyrie instead in the hand of Ian. So want to see what that shift might be, and Fisherman a good one to have in the experienced players' hands.
Yep, absolutely. Love that call. And Evo Xe, Executioner is going to be super frustrating here for this matchup. Oh, the Vines, okay.
This does feel kind of snipish, I have to say. It does feel like they did their homework.
And Lightning right on top of that cage. Oh, wow. And look at that. Ready to go with the Tombstone was Ian. And that's the response time. That's the reaction time of a pro right there. Lightning comes down. Tombstone comes down immediately in time to catch that Ram Rider. And even though it does look like a bit of a snipe, Rich, good damage coming in for the red team.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing okay on defense, but have not been able to turn it into offense the opposite direction. And as you see here, our blue team keeps giving up spell value as well. So the Lava Hound chips away. The spell value on the defensive troops is chipping away. And Jake and Rarran have a kind of a lot of ground to make up here.
And I really like Poison being used because I feel like Poison is the best spell to punish overdrops in units, right? It's just the only way, other than getting like a perfect rocket on top of everything lined up. That Poison is getting so much value, as you just called out. And there we go, once again, Poison value in, Valk coming in, tanking for those pups. And this feels like it's going to be a win for Team Red. It is!
And just some brilliant work, Ian making some adjustments on the decks they have to work with his partner. and Aerith just totally stepping up in position and making really sharp plays. Listen, I would love to hear what the communication was like, because it seemed like they really got on the same page in games 2 and 3.
Absolutely. I mean, she looked dialed there, and I really like Ian having Aerith kind of play the first line of defense, and then him being there to pick up anything that would be more difficult to kind of, get that last second tombstone was great. The fisherman being in his hand was really great. There's a lot of stuff there that I thought worked out really well. And as I said, poison, I think, is going to be the spell of the day, because it really punishes double drops and over defending better than any other spell that you have in Clash Royale. So really love the adjustments from the play style to the decksmanship, everything there, and a great reverse sweep for Aerith and Ian as they move on to being 1-0.
Yeah, and you got to really feel on the other side of things. It really looked like Jake and Rarran had kind of run away with it. They kind of blew them out in the first game. It looked like Aerith was kind of lost, and their opponents weren't on the same page. And then they had that great comeback at the end of game 2. And then you're sitting there going, hey, look at this game 3. Look at all the pieces they have to defend against the Lava Hound. But just they couldn't put all those pieces together and fall in their opening matchup after what looked like a possible runaway win.
Yeah, I mean, and it also felt like when we were first watching that last match or that last game, there was so many responses to the air units. You had the Snowball, you had the E-Spirit, you had the Archer Queen, you had the Evo Executioner, but it all just kind of turned in to poison value over and over again. And then the buildings were just enough. There wasn't enough behind those Ram Riders. There wasn't really enough synergy in the decks to create a big enough push, because they spent so much elixir defending. And again, 2v2 hasn't been a super popular game mode in Clash Royale for a little while, but that elixir does flow really, really slow. So if you make a mistake or you give away too much value, it's really hard to kind of come out of it. Then you have to start making big positive elixir trades, which again is difficult to do when you're new to the game or you're playing against someone like Ian. He's going to punish you over and over. And the other thing about Ian that you and I have, obviously known over the years of meeting him and talking to him, he's a really calm dude, right? He's very calm and composed. So having that person in your ear is probably a great way. Maybe it was just nerves in game number 1, for Aerith, getting out there, playing a new game. But Ian is a person that I would really like to have in my ear as a coach. And it seems like it really paid off.
Well, game number 1 or match number 1 in the books. And I think we'll get our results in some of our other matchups here pretty soon. And then we're going to go into our second round of games, and let's go take a look and see. I think we do have our results. There we go. So far so good on my prediction here with Juice and Spragels getting a win, a 2-0 win in their first one. And we just saw, and we didn't see Reckers Emilianth also 2-0ing. BenTimm1 Godzly with a 2-1 win, and we just watched Ian and Aerith get their dub. And coming up next, our second round featured matchup will be two teams who are both in the 0-1 column in Boss and SpikeVegeta versus OJ and Dekkster.
Yeah, OJ and Dekkster going 0-2, Boss and SpikeVegeta going 1-2. So you wonder which game it was that they picked up. Was it the first one or the second one? But OJ and Dekkster, buddies from other games, from other events out there in the gaming world, not able to put it together in the first match of the day. We'll see if they can bounce back. Again, Boss going to be the most experienced player of the four of them in terms of the competitive scene. OJ, obviously, a guy that's been creating since the beginning, so he's put in a lot of time. I've definitely lost to him before in challenges or on ladders, so he's no slouch. But we'll see, how much time have Spike and Dekkster put into playing. We're going to find out. And also, Rich, have you looked at their decks at all going into this? Because I feel like you really did a good job breaking down what we were going to see in that first match of the day.
Well, thinking about what they had in their first match, you asked the question about Boss and Spike. Boss and Spike lost game 1 running double Lava Hound against BenTimm1 Godzly, who are running Hog for BenTimm and Graveyard for Godzly. So a mixed format deck on their side. Then game number 2, Boss and Spike reverted to a double Golem deck and got the win over double Lava Hound. And then game number 3, Boss and Spike went for a double Lava Hound deck, and such a strange deck out of BenTimm1 Godzly. They ran like almost a no-win condition deck. They had one Evo Skeleton Barrel, but then they just ran like Mega Knights, double Mega Knight, Bowler, Rocket, NATO, they just ran like super control, so I don't know if they got through and were able to break through for damage, or if they spell cycled, but you know, it looks like they just ran double Mega Knight and a bunch of beefy stuff on the ground, and maybe there wasn't enough to defend for it on the boss and Spike side.
All right, well, very curious to see what's going to come out here in the next matchup. I'm going to go hop into that clan as well so I can see and look at all these APIs to see what these guys are running. I just want to go over to see what Juice did here. It's like, yeah, Golem has been really, really popular. It's seeing a lot of Golem, which again, Golem and Lava Hound makes a lot of sense, right? It's just very, very easy and straightforward to figure out. I want to see the first crazy bait stuff. You know, I love Lava. I mean, I love Hog Graveyard. That's such a weird combination that you would never really see in a competitive 2v2 match. But hey, you know, the Graveyard, when you misdefend that or when you're low on Elixir, that's going to be something that's also going to give a lot of poison value when you're double dropping and spending just a little bit too much defensively. So going to move into our second match here in just a moment. OJ and Dekkster are going to see if they can pick up their first win of the day. I bet that stream is a little hilarious and chaotic hearing the two of them talk to each other, because I've definitely watched some of Dekkster's streams, and yeah, we know OJ well, so pretty fun there.
Well, talking about that communication, right? I watched a little bit of their prep stream last night because I was bouncing onto a ton of different streams. And, you know, it was that same thing of OJ trying to figure out how to describe things to Dekkster, how to, like, get him on board for certain concepts. And there's you know, with pretty much every single streaming pair, you start with, like, okay, that's okay. We'll get there on that one. We'll pick that one up. There's a lot of that in all the streams, and so I'm curious how they picked up from there. And you kind of you were asking about the deck stuff, and from what I can see of Dekkster, the only things that he's been prepping are a Ram Rider deck, and he and OJ ran double Ram Rider both games and lost both games against Juicy and Spragels. And then he's also been prepping a Lava Hound deck. So I don't know if he prepped anything more than that, but we have also seen that we had just one team that prepped a ton of different decks. It looks like Snapster and OJ have also been doing a double drill deck with Inferno Tower. So that's an interesting one for them, for if OJ and Dex pull that one out at some point. But prepping fewer decks, you know, I fear not the man who's learned 10,000 kicks, but the man who's done one kick 10,000 times, right? It's the mantra of the one trick here. So keeping the tricks limited for these teams, it seems like it might be the smart play. And for now, I see only 3 decks for OJ and Dekkster that they've been prepping.
You know, a couple cards that have really stood out to me looking through some of these decks that we've already seen. We talked about it in that last matchup, the Evo Valkyrie. That is a card, actually, I want to go back on what I said. I actually love that in the hands of the less experienced player because, as you said, Rich, it's very straightforward and it was perfectly played. Just put it where you need cards to not be, right? So just play it up high, pull everything together, or pull everything together to get some good spell value. And then what I see here that I really like out of Juicy when they 3-crowned OJ and Dekkster in that final game was the Evo Electro Dragon, one of the most frustrating cards in the game, whether it's 1v1 or 2v2. We haven't seen any Rocket. We've obviously seen Lightning, but if you stack cards around that E-Dragon, it might be hard to get the Lightning directly on top of it. And it's really, really punishing in 2v2 when you talk about how many units are all grouped together. So I'd actually really like to see a little bit more Evo E-Dragon. And then the idea of the Evo Baby Dragon, right? Slow those pushes down, give you more time for communication defensively, and then obviously speed things up on the offense, give your opponent less time. So here we go, hopping into game number 2, match number 2. 2 teams looking for their first match win of the day. Boss and SpikeVegeta, top of your screen. Oh, no. Actually, it looks like they're a little swapped on the graphics. So Boss and SpikeVegeta, bottom of your screen. There's that Evo E-Dragon we were just talking about. Then we have OJ, Snapster / Dekkster at the top of your screen, representing the red.
Easy Lightning choice there for OJ and Dekkster on that one. Yeah. An interesting choice here for Boss and Spike to throw the Evo, or to throw that Electro Dragon in there, the Evo one, because this is not the version they were running when they practiced this Golem deck. So very curious about this change if they saw something they liked from somebody else.
And a nice adjustment there from our broadcast team. And then OJ busting out the BM. You love to see it. But I don't think it's going to work against a guy that doesn't really play Clash Royale. And then someone like Boss, who's just, you can see, dialed in and definitely doing the coaching here. Kind of hilarious, though. Very on brand for OJ.
OJ and Snapster going through their deck pool. This is not what they ran last time. Getting the Goblinstein in there. We saw the value of that just now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good call.
And so they are running lava. Just a slight variation on the ones that they had practiced with.
I don't think I've even seen that Firecracker emote before. Oh, wow, Rune Giant. Now, this is interesting. Love to see the Rune Giant come out. And Goblin Hut going to be a pretty nice response going up against lava.
Can that...
There you go.
Yeah, wow. Oh, boy.
Look at that value. Absolutely insane. And I love that it's played up high, so you're not going to get as much lightning value on tower there. OJ and Dekkster still have to pull the trigger on it, though, just creating too much chaos.
A Golem Battle Healer is sending me right now. This is going to be... Can they get anything onto this Inferno Dragon for reset? Slowing it down a little bit with the Ice Whiz. Golem deep in enemy territory. Battle Healer starting to get some heals back up again. Lots of spell value there by that tower if they can find it.
And Goblinstein trying to get some assisted defense in as this Furnace plus Ice Whiz comes down the lane, and a high Rune Giant. Vines and Goblin Curse in the hands of Dekkster. Kind of interesting there. Those are two, like, higher skill cap spells to give to someone that's newer in the game.
Yeah, very curious about that. But, you know, you also think about them being lower cost spells, right? So if they get misplayed.
That's a good point. Looks like Boss and Spike are going to take this. The Golemite's still on the tower. I'm sure they have the spell value. And just as the clock ticks to 0, do they take that dub? OJ and Dekkster still looking for their first game win.
Yeah, hey, that's not going to come easy here today. It's just not. Yeah. Or it might come very easy, right? It's so unpredictable moment by moment that you kind of got to spray and pray sometimes in some of these matches, it feels like.
Yeah, it was interesting to see OJ and Dekkster go to kind of using the cards that they struggled against. You know, Goblin Hut was one of them. E-Drag was one of them. The Evo E-Drag was one of them. But didn't work out for them. Boss and Spike just doing a great job. Going up against the cards that they just struggled against is what I mean. Is the Evo E-Drag and the Goblin Hut, both just run by Juicy and Spragels, and now running into them again here. So maybe having to change up their spells a little bit. As I said, I think it's a good point. You talk about those being cheap spells and the Curse and the Vines, but the Vines you have to be very, very precise with. And then, of course, the Goblin Curse is one of those spells that if you misuse it, it does near to nothing, right? If you don't get the goblins to spawn, or you use it in a spot where the units are not already taking a bunch of hits so that the damage is increased or amplified. So I don't love those spells from OJ and Dekkster, but I did actually really like the Goblinstein. I think that's a pretty interesting card to be able to play, especially if you start to split it, so then your Goblin Doctor can stay alive a little longer and just create a lot of defensive space. When you look at what OJ was running, though, it's a 4.3 average deck. It's actually, when you look at the 4 decks that were out there, the average elixir is pretty much the same all the way across the board. So you saw Boss and OJ, the 2 more experienced players, running the heavier decks, and then you saw Dekkster, Snapster, and SpikeVegeta running cards that were just a little bit cheaper. But what I will say about SpikeVegeta's cards is the Goblin Hut, the Furnace, and the Goblin Machine are all pretty punishing cards, right? You just kind of place them on the board, and they do a lot of work for you. I just would love to see, and is this something that you talked about at the top of the show, Rich? I don't know if you should give the 3 spells to the newer player in Dekkster.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a hard call overall. And this is the deck they actually, and I'm looking back to the history, they did run this pairing quite a bit, and they had some good success with it. But yeah, I mean, kind of giving the... And here's a problem, right? You're talking about a big matchup like this. You want a lot of spells in a 2v2 like this one. But do you limit it? Do you limit the spells? Like, do you only give 1 to your secondary player? Do you off-weight it here and just go, hey, here are troops. Just put troops down on our side. I don't know. That's a hard question, but I'm curious about. OJ and Dekkster, they practiced a ton with this double drill deck where OJ is running Rocket and a bunch of cycle cards, and where Dekkster is running the defensive side of things, running like Inferno Tower and Fireball and stuff. I am very curious if they will have the the confidence to pull that out at some point here. But I don't know. I think that's one of those ones where you have to really be on the same page to get it to work.
Yeah, you know, we've seen so much of kind of the same meta so far moving through the day. Obviously, we're only 4 games in, but I would really like to see Evo Drill. Evo Drill is a card that everyone's talking about right now. It got a huge buff in the last balance changes. The idea of being able to send in double Evo Drill and then just sending a rocket or just double poisoning right off the bat, that's guaranteed damage every single time that you know your opponent is going to have to spend a lot on. So I actually would really love to see them come out with that. I think Drill is a great way to go. If you literally have your double Evo Drills, that's the only thing you need to do offensively. Otherwise, you can spend everything else on defense and see what your counter push can create. So I would actually really like to see that moving forward. Other cards that we've seen a lot of today, Phoenix has been a really popular card. Maybe just the mechanics of it are a little interesting, or the timing of it might be tough for the newer players to get on top of that egg, but we haven't really seen it be super, super effective. It's a great defensive card though. And then, you know, like we talked about, NATO's being in the hands of the more experienced player. Boss had it in his hand that time. Royal Chef has been coming out a lot. It's interesting because you don't obviously need both players to have the Royal Chef. You just need to drop the right unit at the right time. So that's something that oh, actually, you know what? Both players had it, though, this last game with Boss and SpikeVegeta. So they were really leaning into that leveling up cards, and it makes sense when you have a golem, because that level 12 golem getting to the tower, even if it's unsupported, just the burst of it is doing a lot of damage these days, and the golemite's doing a lot of damage at level 12.
Looking sort of at what else Boss and Spike have in their holsters, since they've already gone through, used, and cannot reuse that golem composition. They have another one of those giant, Prince-supported beatdown decks, and it's a pretty solid one, the way they've constructed it, with a lot of counters to Inferno Dragon and Inferno Tower. So I'd be curious to see if they go that direction, maybe thinking about some of the decks that have had that for their opponents. They also have a Lava Hound deck that they've been practicing a whole bunch, so that could be another direction that they go in. And then, looking through their stuff, they've also been practicing a double drill deck, a fast cycle double drill deck. So that would be fun. I would love to see that kind of matchup between two teams going fast cycle in this, and see what kind of chaos ensues and who blinks first.
Yeah, and Boss, just for history, for some of the players that might not know him well, is one of the best giant double Prince players out there. So seeing him kind of, or seeing them run that giant deck that you were talking about before in their first matchup of the day, something that I would actually really like to see as well. I really like the idea of, it's a little more tough with Hog, so it makes sense that maybe Ian and Aerith didn't go with it. But when you have one player that is known for doing something, I'm sure they're the best at coaching that as well, right? And probably constructing decks around it. So I would like to see players, especially when they're up a game, lean into their comfort deck. I think it's a great way to give yourself a slight advantage in game number 2. Because even if you do get slightly sniped, as we saw in that first match, it doesn't mean that snipe's going to play out the same way as when you get sniped by 2 experienced players. So we'll see what we're going to see here in game number 2 of match number 2. OJ and Dekkster still looking for that first win on the day. And yeah, Rich, I really want to see the double drill deck. I just want to see it from anybody. Oh, and the other thing about that double drill deck that they were running is Firecracker. Firecracker and Evo Firecracker, Magic Archers, cards that can punish from a distance, with good placement from the more experienced player. I'd also really like to see that. We saw it kind of punish in game number 1 of our first match, even with the Executioner. You talked about that heal spirit. You're just trying to defend, but you don't think about the placement as much as you should. So the idea of cards like Magic Archer, like Firecracker, that's something that I'd like to see moving forward as well. Start to take advantage of the inexperience, right? This is, you're trying to win $13,000 here. That's a great way to end your week.
Well, you mentioned the inexperienced part, right? And so thinking about these drill decks that we've seen have Firecracker in both hands, thinking about spreading the field a bit with Firecrackers and taking advantage of the fact that one of the 2 players, you're suspecting at least, will have to play a spell they're not familiar with, right? So normally, Firecracker might be pretty handleable in 2v2 with 2 players who know how to effectively use their spells. But when one of them can't, punishing that inexperience by spreading the field and making you not effectively use those spells on things that should be easy to handle but are really annoying if you don't. That, to me, sounds like a winning formula. And as we're getting closer to our second game here, talking about winning formulas, the two directions I expect to see Spike and Boss go are either their giant deck or their lava deck, and it depends on if they think they're facing lava. If they think they're facing lava, I think they're going to avoid their giant deck. If they're playing lava, I think they go for their lava deck. And here we go. I think they're predicting lava, and I think that now this is kind of a who puts it together better.
Lava out in both directions. Inferno behind the lava on the bottom of your screen, though, as the Goblinstein comes out to support the right. And the Bowler, kind of a frustrating card to run into when you're running that Goblin Doctor. Good placement of the Skellies there by OJ. And yeah, I would love to see a lot more delivery and a lot more Zappies. Those Zappies placed well by OJ to snipe that Inferno Dragon. Wow, great damage on the right-hand side.
That tower's down. Let's look at the left-hand side. They should have an easy cleanup here. OJ kind of looks pumped. They're a little low on Elixir. Now they're in a good spot. And the arrows do come out. Yep. Good damage still on that left-hand lane. But Boss, very low on Elixir himself. Not much opportunity here to counterattack as they're forced to spend more to pick up that Inferno Dragon.
Yeah, kind of going for a tower trade situation, but one team played that way better than the other. The defense, again, with the Zappies, with the Vines, the late arrows, all that worked out really, really well for OJ and Dekkster, who are on track to pick up their first dub of the day, but still a minute and a half remaining. And pretty even in Elixir are these squads.
I just want to point out that OJ has notoriously had some of the best camera quality in all of Clash Royale content creation. And it just seems fitting. He's paired with a guy who also has phenomenal camera and lighting quality. I wonder how much time they spent talking about the mechanics of making their shot look beautiful.
I know. It really is. That's a great point, honestly.
Double lavas indeed. Yeah.
And this
that's
is
a good clear.
Working out pretty well. That Goblinstein is going to be just a little bit late on the defense. This tower is going to go down. So now we're in a one-tower situation on opposite sides of the board. This will be really interesting to see how the coaching comes through here now as things get a little more dicey.
Yeah, and Elixir advantage to Boss and Spike. Not insignificant one either. And now Dekkster leaking a little bit as he sets up into the weak side.
Evo Inferno. High Zappies to defend on the opposite side of the board. Don't love those Zappies from OJ, but I understand him just trying to neutralize the Evo Inferno Dragon.
And his is still alive. Going to get some work done here on that Bowler. So Lightning comes out for a reset, but it's going to take a minute for the Skelly Drag to get there. A lot in deep on both sides. Inferno Dragon, Rune Giant working on the bottom left-hand side. And Inferno Dragon and Skelly Drag on the right-hand side. The reset gets the Skelly Dragon off of that tower, but now we're separated by about 250 and slowly slimming down as that difference now under 100 HP crosswise left to right.
It's really interesting that there's only one Evo on both sides of the board. It's supposed to be one Evo in the hand of each player, but it looks like Spike and Dekkster both not having an Evo, at least not so far. And then on the other side of it, Boss and OJ both running Evo Inferno.
Oh, and that's a nice
maybe an Evo Baby Dragon.
A nice combination there, although all of the goblins made by the curse run away to follow the Rune Giant.
Ooh, this is a good push. That's a great Goblinstein from OJ, and that should do it. Goblinstein gets on tower, hits the ability, and tower down here as OJ and Dekkster pick up their first win. OJ hyped up. Dekkster, there we go. There's the reaction you're looking for. Look, he thought they maybe were going to lose for a second, but they end up picking up the dub. Great plays there from the team, red team, if you will.
Yeah, and you can see Dekkster like wearing the appropriate stress of a Clash Royale player on his face during that one too. I was bouncing around. I was watching some of the creator streams, but also I was like, hey, let me just check in on how some of the creators are doing out there. And man, I was going from stream to stream, watching complete just meltdowns as people were going on losing streaks and having struggles. And I was like, man, this is I hadn't watched a lot of streams as of late, and it was fun. And now to see Dekkster experiencing that live for all of us here, that moment that, oh god, his head is down here. You know that he needs, like, did I drink enough
top
water
of the
today?
head stream.
Yeah.
The top of the head stream is a classic in Clash Royale when you're trying to lock in. That's the other thing, is if you're streaming for a living, 99% of those people are incredibly competitive, you know, in their respective games and just in general. So we see things work out here as, you know, Dekkster kind of goes back to the same spells that we were talking about before, but a lot more success in this. Now they're going to have to kind of move away from the cards that we've seen. I really am curious. It looks like Dekkster was running the Evo Valk. I just don't know if we saw it at all. Whereas SpikeVegeta, on the other hand, 0 Evos, so maybe just forgot to put the Valkyrie in the Evo slot as he was running Valkyrie. So that's maybe some of the miscommunication and getting, you know, newer looks to the game, because it does feel like you should always have 2 Evos on both sides of the board. There's just no reason not to have it, especially when one of the cards is a card that can be Evo. 2 of those cards, also the Goblin Cage could be Evo, but it would have been great to have that Evo Valk. So just one of those things you have to cover in the communication, not a lot of time in between games. And again, these people are learning the game, so some small mistakes like that, they're gonna have to iron out in game number 3.
Well, let's see. Now we have the Lava Hound burn for OJ and Spike, that they now have gotten their win. So on one side, Boss and Spike have burned their Golem. OJ and Dekkster have burned their Lava Hound. And now here's the question: Does OJ and Dekkster go back to the bridge spam deck, the double Ram Rider deck they lost with twice in that first round in their first matchup, or do they go to something different like that double drill deck?
Double drill. Yeah. That Ram Rider deck that they have is a really interesting deck, because when you think about the effectiveness of Ram Rider, the most frustrating pushes that you run into is when they get the Ram behind a big push, right? Behind a P.E.K.K.A, behind a Mega Knight, things like that. But when we're in 2v2, it's a lot harder to get that much elixir to actually put those pushes together, especially when you're having to defend, and especially if you make any small mistake that kind of puts you in the elixir deficit. So I don't really love the double Ram Rider deck. We're also seeing a good amount of, you know, zappies and buildings, things like that. So again, I mean, we're both calling for it. I would love to see drill. I don't know about the hyperbait stuff yet. Seems like that might be a little too advanced in the moment, but we'll find out what's going on here in game number 3.
And a little slow start here. Boss and Spike lava up, and it is the Ram Rider deck aggressive directly at the bridge.
Yeah, and exactly what we're talking about, right? Zappies are coming down. That's going to be really frustrating to deal with Ram Riders moving forward. Split Zappies in the middle, regardless of where that Ram Rider comes down, is going to be something that's going to make it easy to defend. I like that Lightning coming in on the Spirit Empress Tower and Baby Dragon. Already Boss in a good spot here. Then there's some of that, you know, growing pains. He gets the vines down on the King Tower. That King Tower activation early on is something that's going to be great for OJ and Dekkster.
Yeah, that's huge. Now, I do want to point out that in the previous iteration of this Ram Rider deck, OJ is the one carrying Fireball. And it looks like it's the same thing here again, where Dekkster is the one carrying Poison, OJ's carrying Fireball. So trying to figure out how to break past the Zappies when they come out is going to be on OJ. And one Skeleton Dragon distracted. Oh wow, Fisherman here too, and Goblin Cage. So this is a pretty nice snipe here from Boss and SpikeVegeta, who are putting in great work on that left-hand tower, and you can kind of see the dismay on OJ's face. He doesn't really know how to defend this. He only has 3 elixir. A zap comes in from Dekkster to save the tower, but you need to get some skeletons down or something to distract that fish boy, and then you see a misplaced Ice Whiz from Dekkster. So tower going to go down early on, and that is a bad spot to be in when you're talking about the decks that OJ and Dekkster are running. Stacks on stacks on stacks, and I do want to point out, you talk about it being a snipe, that Boss and Spike, when they ran this in the past, they did not run it with Fisherman. So making an adjustment here, I don't see any practice rounds of them running this with Fisherman instead of running with Bowler every single time. So, and I think they used Bowler earlier. Either way, running it with Fisherman, great here against that Ram Rider.
Yeah, great poison value that comes in there from Dekkster, but might be too little too late. With only 48 seconds remaining, we got a double lava push here. Those skeleton dragons have actually been super effective so far today as well. Pekka comes down to kind of tank for everything from OJ, but now that means that all the defensive elixir is in the hands of Dekkster.
And that's a tremendous job of not giving up a ton of damage there. The Ram Rider getting a bunch of targeting and taking off the aggro, and then using those troops to clear. But this is looking really, really, really rough. Trying to stop that Brawler. The Brawler, though, just using that tower like a punching bag.
And now the MK just going to go into a horrible situation. Fisherman, Zappies surround, air units that he can't target, and OJ knows and sees the writing on the wall. Not going to pick up their first match win of the day, but was able to pick up their first game win. I got to say that loser... The loser goblin dancing emote is like one of my... I'm a total BM troll, and that is one of my absolute favorite emotes in the game.
I just do that. I like the holding up the 10 over and over again. Just 10.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's my good one. Oh boy, that was a great adjustment by Boston Spike as they now get themselves into the winners column, and just a little tweak there, and they're absolutely able to shut double Ram Rider deck.
A shellacking, as we say it.
Yes.
I just don't love the double Ram Rider deck. I think it's just a little too heavy. You know, if one defensive mistake is made early in the game, it's really hard to recover from. I think when you're talking about air defense, it's not the best, right? You don't really have a lot of units that can target air units. You just have the E-Wiz, the Baby Dragon, and the Spirit Empress, and I guess the Ice Whip. If you talk about all those units, the only one that's doing significant damage is the Spirit Empress. Otherwise, it's just a really, really tough go of it. Now, poison value obviously came in there. Boston SpikeVegeta, as you said, great adjustment. Putting in the Fish Boy, having the Zappies, having the building, having even the E-Spirit, even just something like the E-Spirit to stop and stun the Ram Rider. Just great calls there. And the Goblin stun.
And another smart thing here is Boss lets Spike stick with the same deck. He's been comfortable make any change to Spike's deck. And all he did was, and this is maybe a recognition that OJ and Dekkster couldn't run that light again because OJ had just run the lightning, or maybe expecting that there wouldn't be and the Fishermen, they're not worried about it being lightninged off the board because they were expecting Fireball and poison that Lava Hound construction. And boom, just brilliant way, and that Ram Rider, brilliant adjustment there, knowing they could control it better and spend 2 less elixir in the hands of the more active player. So for them, and more good coming your way here in just a little bit. Short break. Don't go anywhere. More Clash Royale after this. Welcome back to Clash Royale Center Stage, where some of the biggest content creators, both in Clash Royale and beyond, are pairing up for some 2v2 action to kick off the 2026 Clash Royale seasons. And Andrew, we've seen a lot of things kind of going over and over again. We've seen some golems, seen some lava hound, seen some ram riders run into a pretty big wall so far, but we haven't seen a lot of cycle.
Yeah, and that's something that we kind of anticipated at the beginning of the day, is not seeing a lot of cycle. Hopefully, as the players are getting a little more comfortable, a little more seasoned, we're going to see a little bit of faster paced decks, but who knows? And if it's going to stay this way, maybe we're going to see more Inferno Towers or more Inferno Dragons. Let's take a look at our standings, as we are 2 matches out of 5 through the day, and then obviously we're going to get to our 6th match, the Grand Championship. And look at that, Juicy and Spragels still moving forward, have not lost a game yet. So Rich, your call at the top of broadcast about Juice and Spragels looks to be very, very on point right now with a clean 4-0 record. And then of course, where we started our day with Ian and Aerith, they dropped the first game of the day, but since then have been perfect at 4-1. We got SirTag Zain right behind. SirTag Zain, Boss, SpikeVegeta, Reckers Emilianth, and BenTimm1 Godzly all at 1-1 with pretty close records. And those records will matter as we move through the day if any of them are on the cusp or in that 2nd place spot. And of course, our bottom 2 teams still looking for their first match win of the day, but that's the way it goes in Clash Royale. Sometimes you just have a tough go of it, and right now OJ and Dekkster, as we just saw, were at least able to pick up their first win, but still not their first match win of the day. I'm excited to see I'm excited to see Juicy and Spragels play, but we're not going to be there yet, Rich. Next, we're going to BenTimm1 Godzly versus Reckers and Emilianth. So that'll be a fun one there. Both those teams have been doing some good stuff here so far today. Have you pulled up their decks, Rich? Because that's something I'm about to do.
Yeah, BenTimm1 Godzly have been one of the more interesting deck building teams so far. We've seen them run some of the standard, like we've seen the Lava Hound and things like that. But a couple little wrinkles. They got a win over, or they took an L to Tag and Zain when they were running a Graveyard and then Mega Knight Rocket Cycle deck. So some really interesting stuff. Some different things from them. They did get a win with that deck as well against Boss and Spike. So I'm curious. BenTimm1 Godzly, they also had a Hog Graveyard deck as well. So you talk about getting outside of what we've normally seen. This feels like the most likely place for that to happen, and this might be that combination of that might be the Graveyard and Rocket deck I was just talking about.
So the Heal Spirit in the hands of the more seasoned player at the top of your screen. Now we're seeing some Firecracker, which I love to see. I think Firecracker could be a really punishing card out there. A little bit of an interesting drop of those spears right behind. That's a ton of spell value on the right-hand side there, and there it goes. Firecracker plus spears plus cannon off the board. And, you know, Evil Witch was another card I'd been thinking about. How much can her heal be abused, as this Mother Witch is just stacking piggies on the left-hand side of the board. Nothing there to defend the pigs. Goes up high to get on top of the Mother Witch. Should have played that mini P.E.K.K.A down low to clean up the pigs and tank for the Mother Witch, as that is almost already a tower down.
Yeah, I'm expecting that Godzly has Graveyard here in this deck. I don't think he's going to be running the Hog Rider. And I'm a bit surprised that Ben didn't drop earlier. Ben had Elixir to deal with those piggies. Maybe he was just waiting for, I don't know exactly. I think the rest of that deck, he also has run this with Miner. This is like a Miner Hog Lightning deck. I'm telling you, the stuff that they've been creating, Godzly and Ben, is chaotic, and I'm here for it.
I'll be honest, I don't love Miner in 2v2, especially this 2v2 format, the Pro-Am style. It feels like Miner is one of those cards. It's either higher skill cap or it's just slow to get damage throughout. And a lot of these games have just been, I mean, I don't think we've seen any go to overtime, right? So the Miner is a card that is very effective when you talk about the long game, but having to win things early, Miner not always the best, as we already see 166 HP remaining on that left-hand side.
And they got nothing.
This is actually a moment I'd like to see Reckers and Emilianth have gone to the right-hand side. Ram Rider does connect, but that tower is already within spell value range, so doesn't feel like the best usage of Elixir, but they take a tower, so can't be too mad about it.
And so a big push on the right-hand side, left-hand side, going Hog plus Skeleton Barrel, and then a Mega Knight at the bridge, just trying to full send on the left-hand lane. Zap will take care of the Skellies as they drop, trying to control the Mega Knight and the Inferno Dragon in the middle here. but you have to get to the second level, and so far that's been the big problem for Godzly and BenTimm. And I'm curious, they ran this really well against Boss and Spike with the Graveyard combination, and there is that miner. Yeah, they make a switch up, maybe trying to be less predictable here, but I feel like Graveyard would have been a little bit more point and shoot for this team. That's a lot of damage, not going to be enough, and that's going to be game number 1 for Reckers and Emilianth.
Yeah, I mean, that honestly, you know, a card that we haven't talked about a lot is the Mother Witch today, and she is a very punishing card if you're going to give those piggies a chance to spawn. And also when we talk about 2v2 and the slower elixir, just not a good way to respond. You know, you can't overspend down low, and then maybe you feed the Mother Witch another pig, and then that was just one of those things where they were kind of completely caught off guard by the Mother Witch, who got so much value early on that it felt like the game was already over.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty brutal, pretty fast. And, you know, the Mother Witch, you called it out perfectly, right? The mini P.E.K.K.A up high on the Mother Witch when all the damage was happening down low and put them in a hole they couldn't dig out of. They actually got some decent damage there at the end, but when you're trying to play from that much of a problem, mix that with it felt like there could have been something out of the more experienced player to make that pickup on BenTimm's side, and it just ended up being too far behind too quickly, and they find themselves in the hole against this Reckers and Emilianth squad that now, you know, they can't go back to that well again, but they got a win with the deck composition that we've seen have sort of the most struggle there, so now they can move on into a whole lot of other really viable options.
Yeah, you know, what was really interesting was BenTimm, being the more seasoned player, felt like he had a really difficult time with his cannon placement throughout that game. Cannon was their only defensive building. And then again, the miner just not really finding a place to be, period, throughout that entire matchup. There was one moment where it was used as kind of a snipe, but just in general, just not really doing what he needed. So I don't really love the decks from either of these guys. I kind of understand a bit of it, but it just, the synergy wasn't there. The placement wasn't great. And then on the other side of it with Reckers and Emilianth, that, you know, both of them running Mother Witch, you know, arrows out there, a very easy spell to wrap your head around, poison. They did have double Ram Rider, but the Ram Rider wasn't really the story of the game. So we'll see here if BenTimm1 Godzly can bounce back in game number 2.
I'm really curious about, and I think this is going to be it, Reckers and Emilianth were prepping a sort of bridge spam alternate where it was Battle Ram P.E.K.K.A with Emilianth, and then this is probably it. Reckers is going to be running Hog in this deck with a Boss Bandit. So look for kind of an interesting spam variation out of this pair.
And Hog barrel left-hand side. Hog taking for the barrel, not the way you want it to go. You want it to go the opposite way. Gonna do a big spend there on the left. So you got 10 elixir in total at the bottom of your screen, and then 13 elixir on the top. So I'd love to see a bit of punishment here from the red side.
And a little variant here out of Emilianth. I haven't seen her run this version of the deck. I'm wondering if it still is the Battle Ram deck. As the Bandit is there, I'm wondering what it's in there in place of.
Oh man, Rich, that elixir wasted is insane in single elixir in 2v2. She just dropped 7 elixir waiting for her next move, which, you know, you understand when you're a person that's played the game for a long time how imperative it is to use that elixir right when it gets to 10. But obviously the newer players out there, we've seen a good amount of elixir leakage throughout the day.
And that's going to be a free shot from the Firecracker. So lots of damage. Of course, the King Tower activation will be helpful, which is one of those reasons why, you know, it's interesting, right? There's so many cards that just are instant activations in 2v2. And we haven't watched competitive 2v2 in a long time, but there was a whole lot of, for a while, just going, hey, you know what? It's going to get activated pretty early on anyway, so just go ahead and let it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing about spell value in 2v2 is taking off 1 unit and getting spell tower damage isn't the best way to go. Usually you want to wait for a second unit to come down, or even go up high and try to get all 3 of them. Going just 1 unit and spell power isn't ideal, but, you know, not getting punished for it too much right now is BenTimm1 Godzly. But as you can see, this is a huge counter push coming down the lane.
Yeah, and P.E.K.K.A.'s going to go ahead and just tank some of the shots up front, make a little bit of a distraction. Hog won't get into the next level, but it's the Exy that's part of the problem here, going to force some more expenditure out of the other team, and that's a big hit on the right-hand side.
Yeah, big shot coming in. Battle Ram going down the right-hand side. So, as you said, a little different than what we've seen out of her. Going to get a good tower take, though, on the left-hand side with that Evo barrel. Really, really nice stuff there. And Reckers and Emilianth just seemed a little out of sorts throughout that game.
Well, they made some interesting changes to the deck they had practiced. Reckers was running this with a Boss Bandit, and Emilianth was running it with the Golden Knight instead of the Classic Bandit. So some interesting changes there, and especially when you're talking about players who are brand new to the game. You know, you want to be able to make some of those adjustments in real time. That's part of playing Clash Royale. But how much of those adjustments impact the newer player as they're going, wait, I have to do something different than I anticipated? Bandit seems a simple card to us now, but there's some mechanics, some timing stuff there that might not make sense to a brand new player.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, the things that I really had an issue with that we saw with kind of the usage of their saw the 7 leaked elixir from Emilianth, and then also on top of just the Evo Witch and the tower. Now I understand you want that to the board, but if you give yourself a little bit of time, 90% of the time you're good, especially in a situation like this with newer players, you're going to support that Evo Witch with another card, so at least get a little more value out of that. So Rich, looks like I'm gonna have to reconnect here, so I will be right back.
Oh yeah, I just did the same thing. Appreciate everybody sticking with us as we are in the universe of remote broadcasting, so every once in a while you have some hiccups down the line. But looking back at the matchup here, and Reckers and Emilianth, just this interesting combination of going with a bridge spam hog combo, very similar to the other side with the hog Evo skeleton barrel combo. So we've seen kind of a big departure in this game from what we saw previously, and I was really excited to see just a slight difference in not just going away from the big beatdown stuff we've been watching, but also the hybridized deck, right? The deck that does 2 different things, and there's 2 different kind of thought processes, right? On one hand, you think about, hey, you want to have 2 of the same win condition to force them to spend their most ideal counter against the first one and then go for the second one. But the chaos amongst a less experienced duo of having 2 different things coming down, 2 different looks, you can see the value here, and both sides are able to land pretty significant blows throughout this matchup.
Yeah, so now that Godzly and BenTimm have picked up a win with those decks, we're going to see them move on to something else. I do really like the Evo Barrel. I think the Evo Barrel was really effective for them. The Evo Witch kind of baiting out that elixir, I guess, was nice. When you look at the cards that that Emilianth was running, I mean, honestly, Boss Bandit is a card that is a lot more powerful and a lot more straightforward than the regular Bandit, right? It's just such a nuisance. So I would have actually loved to see something like the Boss Bandit come out instead. Maybe she would have then had a better idea of where to use her elixir. But here we go. We got Giant Prince top of your screen going up against Bowler and Knight. And nice barrel there to soak the charge. And Lightning Value would have been nice to get on the Witch, but doesn't happen.
They got a win, Reckers and Emilianth, with this combination against Tag and Zain earlier.
I did not love that that double drop of spells there from Reckers, Rich. Using the Curse and then the Rage, not getting anything out of it because you have a bunch of AoE or splash damage units like the Bowler, like the Baby Dragon, like the Witch to clean up all those goblins. That just left them in a huge elixir hole, and now still down elixir and down a tower.
And this is what I thought we were going to see from Ben and Godzly earlier. Ben is running just a bunch of support troops, NATO and Rocket. And that's going to make it really difficult for Reckers and Emilianth to do anything at this point. Not to mention, as we just saw there was so much beef to go behind supporting the graveyard. And like with anything, one mistake ended it all pretty early.
Yeah, but using Barb Barrels late to get on top of King Tower is a good way to throw that lead away. So we'll see if Reckers and Emilianth can kind of punish here as they go Giants in both sides. And honestly, the Witch, the Goblin Hut, all that is making the Prince really, really ineffective.
Yeah, the last thing you want to see with a Prince is skeletons, just about anywhere.
Yeah. Giant does get a couple shots on tower, but not going to be enough. And
30,
misplacement
filthy.
on the graveyard, but I do like this push here.
Yeah, I think maybe he was trying to just let the skeletons be out of the way of the King Tower and make sure that the Mega Knight got the aggro, but the Mega Knight jumped away. Maybe that's what he was going for, or maybe he just put it too far out because he's new. Either one, they now have one important defense to make on the right-hand side, and that will be enough to lock up this match if they can do it.
Yeah, and just this is one of the conversations you have to have with your newer player. If you looked at the leaked elixir on screen, all the players combined have less than 1, and then Emilianth has almost 8, and that's just one of those things, especially when you're running a heavier deck like this in 2v2, you just can't have happen. Started off well for them, went downhill pretty quick as BenTimm1 Godzly pull off the reverse sweep. Godzly is locked in.
Oh yeah, all the way. He looked that way in their practice beforehand too. He's kind of been fully locked in the entire time. So not surprised to see him do the same thing here. And thinking about where everyone comes from in their history, Godzly is a variety streamer. He does all sorts of different stuff, right? So the ability to adapt to a new game is kind of in his purview. He does trading card games, he does FPS, he does variety overall. Whereas Emilianth is an FPS gamer specifically. So you don't know, I mean, we're all game and play a bunch of different stuff, but Godzly's whole thing is I can become Godzly in different games. And I wonder if we'll see, we saw SpikeVegeta also being able to, he's also one of the 2 variety streamers in the group of people who are joining us today. And we saw some success
that's a good point.
there. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, and I'm curious about it, is Emilianth is an FPS gamer, right? Which is a very reactive. I've always thought of FPS players as kind of the jocks of the gaming world, right? It's just about being in the moment and being having fast reaction times and all that different stuff. You have moments where you have to think a couple steps ahead, but you're playing purely off of purely in your lizard brain when you're playing FPS half the time. Whereas you have to be thinking so far ahead in Clash Royale. It's a different style of gaming, and that adaptation is an interesting thing to challenge.
Yeah, and when you talk about FPS gamers and their precision with getting their headshots and things like that, it doesn't help if you don't understand the micro of the game yet, right? Getting that perfect placement on things is probably something that they'd be very good at, but then you need to put in all the time and experience to understand those interactions. And then the other thing that I'm kind of noticing as the day has gone on is leaked elixir is obviously an issue, but the idea of slow playing the first 30 seconds to a minute to wait for your opponent to make those big mistakes. That's literally exactly what we saw in that last game there. Let them play into you, let them make the mistakes and then punish. Just play defensive, play your cheap cards, get your cycle where you want it. I mean, obviously these are kind of higher level thinking in terms of Clash Royale, but you do have one person on the team that really understands these mechanics and these thought processes. So as the day goes on, I'd really love to see more of that. Now, the other part of it is Godzly and BenTimm didn't really leak any elixir as those matches went on, so it'd be difficult to kind of punish there. But yeah, really nice bounce back reverse sweep for those guys.
Yeah, it was exactly what they needed to do, and they created chaos where they needed to create chaos and came out looking really, really good for it. But now we are going to get our updates on our matches here in a moment and see where everyone is. And I'm curious to see if Juice and Spragels continue their winning ways as they are setting themselves up for a showdown with SirTag and Zain. This should be a really, really fun pairing between these 2 pairs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just popping up Royale API here, and it looks like they did finally lose their first game. So maybe going to game number 3 right now are Juice and Spragels. So Boss and SpikeVegeta giving them a little bit of a run for their money. Obviously, we're going to see where they end up here in just a little bit.
Yeah, and the again, getting back to the idea of the decksmanship, the question becomes, which is really the right way to go? Are you going to stick with some of these simpler things, or are we seeing sort of the right formula here in our last matchup where BenTimm1 Godzly going to the hybrid decks and creating more chaos, creating more less predictability on the defensive side for the other team? That we only have this limited, this is a limited event, right? We're about halfway through our event at this stage. And I am very curious to see what wins out on the end. Will it be sticking with the simplicity, or will it be creating those chaotic moments?
Yeah, I mean, I actually really like Graveyard. You know, even though it's been going through a lot of balance changes lately, it's still one of those cards that when you're down in Elixir can really, really punish you. So you get those big counter pushes. You just throw a Graveyard in the back. That's also a card that's pretty easy to understand if you are a newer player, right? You just kind of wait for the more experienced player to tell you when to pull the trigger. Okay, we got a good counter push. Things are going well. Let's play the Graveyard now, you know, and we saw how well that worked out in game number 3. Let's take a look at our standing and see how players have moved through this. Are Juicy and Spragels still perfect? Did they do it?
They did.
They did.
And
wow, look at that. Ian and Aerith, Rich.
After looking so completely lost, befuddled in game number 1, the competitors come out and they have not lost a game since dropping the first one on stream here. And so for the moment, it's Juicy and Spragels, Ian and Aerith on a collision course to see who will come out on top in the end. And you think about their round 4 matchups, Zain and SirTag are a live dog in that one. They've won 1 match, lost 2, but certainly can put Juicy and Spragels in our next featured matchup into a tough back and forth fight. Whereas Ian and Aerith, they have Boss and Spike, who we've also seen show up. So neither one of these 2 undefeated squads has an easy out coming up next.
Yeah, and then looking at the bottom of our rung here, it looks like OJ and Dekkster are probably not going to make it to the finals, but everyone else still technically in the mix. They could turn things around. Obviously, that win-loss record, the game record is huge. And yeah, it's crazy, man. I think that's such a good point that Aerith and Ian looked so lost in game number 1. Since then, have not lost a game. Juicy and Spragels just lost their first game in the last set. And then you look at BenTimm1 Godzly, who we've had, you know, it looked, I don't love their decksmanship, but you know what? They're 2-1, they're 4-4. It's working out for them. SirTag Zain right behind that. Boss and SpikeVegeta at 1 and 2 as well. So we're still got a lot of dogs in this race.
Yeah, a ton of them. And, you know, when you think about the tightness there, Juicy and Spragels or Ian and Aerith, each of them could go 0-2. But you talked about it, that game record, right? Even if they both got swept in their next 2 matches, they would drop to 6-4. That would require some of these other teams trying to push past them to put some real heat on. And you gotta go and go. Right now, when you're thinking about if you're SirTag Zain or Boss and Spike, you're thinking about sweeps. Same thing actually for everybody. But really, SirTag Zain, Boss, and Spike are the ones who only have 4 losses. You're thinking about sweep city right now. Get aggressive, get those wins, and try to do something that the other team might not see coming.
Yeah, and that's going to be what we're going to see next is a huge moment here for SirTag Zain going up against Juicy and Spragels. Like you said, they need to pull off that full-on sweep, that 2-0, to bring that win-loss record, that game record down for Juicy and Spragels, and of course, bump theirs up to stay in the hunt. So things definitely getting a bit dicey, as they do towards the end of a competitive day. But did you guys get your rewards? Because we did. I got 2 Evo shards. I mean, that's pretty huge. And you got a lot of Goblin Gang, which honestly, as a guy that runs Mortar Bait, love to see that. And you got a banner. There's some banners out there that I really, really love. There's the Wizard and the Ice Golem one that I think is pretty cool. So here we go. Scan for your in-game rewards. If you already got it earlier in the stream, or if you got them yesterday watching the streamers or the co-streamers, that is not going to work out for you because it's only 1 time, but it's still 3 chests. And like I said, we both got, or at least I got a 4-star. Did you get a 4-star, or were you just like 3-3-2?
Oh, a lot of 3s and 2s on my side. No 4 stars for me. And sometimes that's just the way the stars sparkle. I don't actually know what the cookie crumbles would be. The ball bounces would be for stars. That's why the stars sparkle. Sometimes they don't sparkle as bright. Sometimes they go big for you. Speaking of going big, let's take a look at some of the decks that we've seen from our current front runners, or that we're going to see in our next matchup, Juicy and Spragels. They've run a lot of Golem, had success that lot on, so a lot of keeping it simple from Juice and Spragels, and that's kind of been the story for all their competitive matches today. They have not been going outside of this really simplistic approach. And so now I'm going through every competitive match they've had today has been either Golem or Lava Hound. And we go back to that question. Is it better to have a deep deck pool here or to keep it really simple? Keep it simple, stupid. And I'm going back into their practice rounds. I finished page 1 of their practice rounds, and I've got nothing beyond lava and golems. So they might have just been sitting there becoming masters of this specific domain.
You know, and when you talk about Lava and Golem and the decks that they've been running, you know, they're using a lot of the cards that we've talked about throughout the day that are incredibly effective. A lot of poisons are out there. A lot of, we're seeing some zappies. And then, of course, the Evo E-Dragon. It's something that stood out to me at the very top of the day. They haven't shied away from it. And then using the Evo Baby Dragon, also really, really strong in terms of just kind of slowing the game down. We talk about how fast this game moves when you're new to it. That's a great way to help you clean up your defense. And then also the Evo Valks, like literally maybe the best defensive card in the game, at least the best defensive Evo in the game. Seeing a lot of that in the hands of Spragels, which is something that you were pointing out earlier on today too, is just, I was like, well, maybe that needs to be in the hands of the more experienced player. No, give it to the person that's newer to the game, because it's very, very straightforward and it's incredibly effective. It's very, very rare that the Evo Valk will do you wrong. It's only if you pretty much drop it on top of your own tower and then pull units to your tower. But that's something that Juicy, I'm sure, is not going to allow to happen. I'm sure their communication is great. And as we said, Juicy takes all these competitive, all these competitions deadly serious, and right now it is really working out on his end. Seeing a lot of Royal Chef from them too, which is just one of those things, getting that boosted level is really important. Obviously not as strong defensively, so when they are using that Royal Chef, they are stacking with defensive cards like the Zappies, like the NATO, like the Ice Wizard, and NATO being in the hands pretty much 100% of the time, it feels, of the more experienced player, regardless of the duo.
Should be. It should always be in the more experienced player's hands. NATO, it's the easiest way to waste 3 elixir is a bad tornado. I don't think there's a single easier way to do that other than not spending it, right? There's the leaking. It goes leaking and then tornado. That's the order, and everything else after that. Now you talk about the keeping it simple. While on the side of Spragels and Juicy, it's been just Golem and Lava Hound exclusively, as far back as I can see. Mm-hmm. Tag and Zain, they have the Golem on one side, but their other deck, the only other one I've seen that they've practiced and run is a Graveyard Skeleton Barrel hybrid. And I actually really love the Skeleton Barrel as a card you put in the hands of a less experienced player, because that's a card that it's almost impossible to get wrong. Just play it near the bridge, and you're good. So I think that's actually a really smart play, and we'll see if that pays off here for Tag and Zain as we go into this matchup against Juice and Spragels.
Yeah, great start for Tag and Zain, and we get another level up on that Golemite, so going to do some good damage. And also, as we're praising and talking about how the NATO should be in the hands of the more experienced player, we see Juicy miss that King Tower activation with his NATO on the Golem. So not working out well as they try to put together their own big beatdown push on the right-hand side.
Yeah, that battle healer not doing anything to help support the push across the bridge. And this is going to give a lot of support. Nice lightning there from Tag to try to clean up all that support. But now they're very low on elixir, and the only one who has any elixir is the new player in Zain. The rage drop, seeing if it can get something off, but that's going to be a ton of damage. That should be tower down here if that gets one more shot and just barely survives. So both sides have been bloodied and battered, but their towers still stand.
Yeah, definitely going to be a 2-tower game here. That was a really tough defense for Zain and Tag. The idea of using the Golem up high isn't a bad idea, because you pulled all the support units away so that you could focus on your opponent's Golem, but then you had to deal with the counter push, and that is just a tough spot to be in. Zain there leaking just a little bit of elixir, but does get a unit down.
And you
see this move to the left-hand side. Go ahead.
Look at this. Everything getting in deep.
Yeah.
And this is now going to put Tag and Zain in a absolutely terrible position, as the poison will easily take care of the right-hand side. And now their left-hand tower is probably going to go down as well. And this is going to be a game #1 win for Juice and Spragels as they continue their reign of terror.
I mean, honestly, they're playing this really, really well. Other than the small misplay with the NATO in the beginning, they did a great job of taking that tower damage on the left-hand side, putting together a huge counter push on the right-hand side, splitting up the elixir of SirTag and Zain. And Juice and Spragels looking real good right now, man. They're looking just really in sync with one another. The decks, what are you going to do? Right? I mean, if you know exactly what they're going to run, they throw it exactly what you're expecting right at you, and you just cannot stop it. And the Goblin Hut has been pretty effective building for throughout.
Oh yeah, I mean he's been leaning on it like he's tired, just finished a marathon. So he doesn't have it for our next game though. Goblin Hut's gone as they take the win in game number 1. And as a reminder for those of you just joining this, we are playing with some special rules here in this 2v2 event at center stage. Only one Evo deck, and because we need new players here, we're not throwing heroes at them. That's something for more advanced players like you watching at home. And then on top of all of that, if you win a game, you may not repeat those cards in that same match. So this entire deck that you just saw from Juicy and Spragels, take those cards, throw them away. They got to go back to the drawing board here for game number 2. And given their history, Andrew, I'm going to guess that they're going to go Lava Hound. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly, I mean, I think it's a pretty solid guess, Rich. They've done it basically, it feels like 100% of the time. What do you do? How do you stop it? If you are Zain and SirTag, you have every card at your disposal in the game. So how do you punish? When you look at the decks that are run, when they're running Lava Hound, the spells, they're covering their board with the spells. They got lightning, they got arrows, they got vine. A lot of ways. I really want to see them snipe this deck. There we go. Tag and Zain, bottom of your screen now. Juicy and Spragels at the top. I would love to see a snipe here. So far, looks like they're just going back to what's worked.
And for the Inferno Dragon, doing a ton of work here. And will it be enough? Battle Healer goes down, and they'll take some damage. But Juice and Spragels survive early.
Yeah, pretty decent counter push here, but that Furnace should do a nice job. I'd like to see them take just a little bit of damage if necessary. Don't even need to, and they start to build up another push. Golem into lava. Don't hate that either. Knowing that Juicy and Spragels usually run lightning here, I'd love to see a bunch of units stacked on top of that Golem in support that are very difficult to get to.
And great use of the Skeleton Dragons.
Yeah, and a nice timing there on the lightning as well, but still, that Inferno just doing work on the Golem.
And a double Inferno in this deck too, by the way.
Yeah.
An Evo for one player and the Classic for the other.
Yeah, and the Evo Valk being the other card there, so pretty great when you talk about just what they have defensively. You know, bait out the spells on the first Inferno, drop the second. If it all hits the fan, then you can play that Valkyrie up high to pull everything back, and by that time you would hope the first Inferno is back in cycle, because that's exactly what they're doing every time, right? The moment that they start their pushes, it's lava and then Inferno. So the idea is that they can basically get 3 Infernos out if they need to on every battle.
And the Lightning going to go and not get on top of the Evo Electro Dragon. That's pretty huge here.
Yeah, so a nice defense there for Tag and Zain, and now they need to turn this into something better. 11 Elixir in the tank, but guards at the bridge behind the E-Drag, maybe not what you want. And that slight, what felt like an advantage, goes out the window pretty quickly here. And now a tough counter push as we see Zain maybe panicking a little, not sure where to play his cards.
Yeah, I mean, the Electro Dragon again being the absolute MVP for Tag and Zain as Tag gets it out again. But now the Empress clears it off the board. And I don't think they have any sort of spell situation here to deal with this. I think the only spells they have are the Lightning and maybe a Snowball in the hands of Zain.
Yeah, and there you go.
And a snowball for Tag.
Offensively, and then, yeah, the Snowball comes out defensively here. Good Lightning value in, 756 to 1088. This game is far from over. Nice protection there on the Flying Machine with the drop lava.
Juice and Spragels have to figure out what to do about this Evo Electro Dragon.
Yeah.
That's been a huge problem for them, and it's really keeping Tag and Zain alive here, although that's a lot of damage in. Spells in, and another pup shot
That's enough, Rich. I mean, they can just go and cycle their spells at this moment. There's the lightning. They just need one more spell. There's the vines. And Juicy and Spragels, staying undefeated, have now clinched a spot in our playoffs.
Wow. Just absolute wow. Very little... I mean, here's the thing, too, about the way they're playing is they're making some mistakes, but they haven't made any mistakes that we've seen that have been terminal, right? They're able to recover from them. And, you know, we've mentioned this, we've said this a lot of times before, mistakes beget mistakes. And for them, it hasn't been the case. And maybe that's the difference between Juice and Spragels and everybody else here so far. Yeah,
I mean, they have been doing a great job of being able to bounce back from any, like you're saying, the mistakes are not huge. They are, okay, so this didn't go exactly the way we wanted, let's just reset. And that's the thing about these big beatdown decks, is you see, it's like, okay, we tried, it didn't work, let's reset. Same thing, you play lava, I play inferno, let's move through, let's see how we can defend. And then clearly the communication between them is pretty good, because you're getting, you know, Spragels to last second drop to protect support units coming across the bridge. So, you know, there's obviously a good understanding. And that's the thing, is when you're running the same 16 cards essentially for the entire day, you're going to really start to understand the mechanics better, especially when it's working so well for you. You just can kind of rinse and repeat. I would really love to see more of a snipe situation, but it almost felt like Tag and Zain were kind of doing that. You know, it's not a straight snipe. I'd love to see, I mean, we haven't seen really any Inferno tower, and we're not seeing as much Inferno Dragon on the other side of people running into Juicy and Spragels. I think that's something that just needs to happen, whether it's the Dragon or the tower. I guess lean towards the Inferno Dragon just because it's a little more versatile, and a lot of people are running Lightning, so the tower might not be as effective. You know, and as you talked about the adjustments of, oh yeah, that E-Dragon is a huge problem, and Juicy and Spragels were kind of able to lock that down as the game went on. The other thing is when you're talking about the Lava Hound and the Golem as your two win conditions, even if you don't get the push you want, the Golem death damage, the Golemites, and the Lava Pups are all a little bit of damage every single time. So even if you don't get that big burst of damage that you want, the tower take, you're still chipping away every single time. And that's another thing that's been really, really effective with these guys' decks, Juicy and Spragels.
Well, the other thing, too, is, you know, one thing that I see here that Juicy and Spragels are doing smart, you talked about how important Lightning is in these matchups. Well, they're switching who has Lightning, right? So it's like, hey, I can't run it again, but you can run it. So you have Lightning this time. So maybe making some good use of the format overall to keep things live. Now, this was a 2-0 sweep. We got this one done fairly quickly, so we're going to be getting a game 3 from one of our other matches up here fairly soon for you. And let's go ahead, jump on into it. And this is actually game 2. So we're jumping in early to BenTimm1 Godzly against OJ and Dekkster. OJ and Dekkster playing for Pride more at this point, and also prize pool to see if they can get out of the bottom chunk of our prize pool. But BenTimm1 Godzly still in the mix here.
And we see, oof, yeah, that's tough. Low elixir. Goblin Cage comes out a little bit late. Graveyard comes down. A good Vines there as well. And the struggles, the woes continue for OJ and Dekkster, who are just having a tough go of it today, guys. Clash Royale is not a game that you could just pick up in a day or two, especially at this level. And BenTimm1 Godzly doing a good job here punishing OJ and Dex.
Yeah, and keep in mind, BenTimm1 Godzly are one of the teams at 3-1. So they are one of those teams that, or one of the teams that are at a good win rate overall. Yeah. So they are one of those squads that could make a run towards the overall victory and potentially leapfrog into our top 2.
Yeah, and if you're BenTimm1 Godzly, you really don't want to drop a game, because those games obviously are going to play a factor if there are ties. So trying to get the 2-0 sweep, and honestly, they're in a 2-tower situation right now. That Dark Prince will not take the tower. Rune Giant able to push it off. And now a last-ditch effort here on the right-hand side of your screen. I love that they haven't given up on the Rune Giant. They're the only ones that have run it today, it feels like, at least from what we've seen. Highly ineffective, but at least they are loyal to the Rune Giant.
But it is there.
But it is there.
Yeah. and that's going to be a second tower down here, and now trying to stop the 3 crown. Crown differential is a tiebreaker, by the way, folks. So BenTimm1 Godzly getting a 3 crown here and not giving up any towers would actually be significant. I don't think it's in the cards, but still, even a 2-0 tower win could help them if we do get down to that as one of our deeper tiebreakers in the game. And now I think I was incorrect before. I thought it was 2. They were 2-1. Now BenTimm1 Godzly go to 3-1 and preserve their life, preserve the possibility of jumping into that top 2.
I have to say though, the idea of the Rune Giant and the Evo Inferno Dragon that is fully charged up, I want to just see the interactions with every unit of that, because every unit in the game will just be zapped off the board almost instantaneously with a fully charged Inferno plus Rune Giant damage buff. Pretty awesome. I just wish it worked out a little bit better for them, because I would have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it would have been fun, but you know, it doesn't always work out how you plan. Sometimes your plan, you know, there's an old jiu-jitsu thing, right? Punch a black belt in the nose one time, it becomes a brown belt. Punch him twice, it becomes a white belt. And same thing here. OJ definitely has earned that black belt in Clash Royale over the years, but you get hit a couple of times, and next thing you know, you're just you're hoping for a promotion.
Let's take a look here at our standings as our round 4 has wrapped up. So we got one more of the round robin coming your way before we get to the championship. And this is going to be really interesting to see where Ian77 and Aerith ended up, because it felt like they were, I mean, they're our solid number 2 team, but if they dropped that match, we could be having a little bit of a closer situation here. Obviously, as we saw on stream, Juicy and Spragels locking in or clinching that playoff berth, if you will. And there we go, Rich. It feels like it's not completely over, right? I mean, the game differential,
it might be over on the game record here.
Yeah, I think it is.
Now, what I don't know, I guess head-to-head might be the first tiebreaker after win-loss record. That is so I'm getting word that is the first tiebreak. So our final matchup in round 5. So Juicy and Spragels are locked. They are in no matter what. But Ian and Aerith versus BenTimm1 Godzly, win-loss record is the first important thing, but head-to-head is the first tiebreaker before game record. So BenTimm1 Godzly, with a win against Ian and Aerith, could leapfrog into our top 2 and go to our finals against Juicy and Spragels. We've got a live one, folks.
That is awesome. I love that the head-to-head is the first tiebreaker. That makes things a lot more spicy as we get into our playoffs here. Ian and Aerith, BenTimm1 Godzly fighting for their life, fighting for that second place spot. That is going to be the next match that we cover. And it's going to be really interesting to see the evolution of both these squads, right? We just saw a little more of BenTimm1 Godzly, but we haven't seen Ian and Aerith since the very top of show. So as we've seen, they haven't really dropped a game since then. They've been perfect since then. So I'm very curious to see what has changed there. Obviously going to pull up their decks to see what's changed, if anything. But it is exciting to see how quickly they kind of got on top of stuff and turned things around. Looks like they're going a lot of Lava Golem as well, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, smart. It's been working. It's been working very, very well. And, you know, we've seen how it's been so far for our leaders and our already clinched team in Spragels and Juicy. So, again, keeping it simple can be the winning formula here. The big question, though, is the BenTimm1 Godzly situation, both the mixture of the unpredictability, but also with the chaos they can sow, right? So they've been running a lot of these mixed decks. They've had success with the Graveyard deck, with BenTimm just running support cards and Rocket NATO. They've had success with the Hog and the Evo Skelly Barrel deck. They've had success sowing chaos, and can they take advantage of that here one more time in a finals clinching matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see a little bit of chaos, because it feels like that could be the deciding factor when you talk about maybe throwing Aerith off of her game. If you're just going to go straight forward with what we've seen a lot of Golem and Lava Hound, I don't know if you win that battle. They've been pretty perfect since they've changed things up. They've also got a lot of things in their deck, Ian and Aerith, that I really like when you talk about those matchups. You know, when you talk about running into the Golems and the Lavas a lot, they've got the Evo Xe, they've got Phoenix, which is going to be really effective. They're both running Zappies a lot, which I think is a really, really great and really frustrating card. It's a card that you don't really want to use a lot of spell value on unless it's like a poison and you're getting other units in there as well. Spirit Empress is a great card. We haven't really seen a lot of ground Spirit Empresses being played, but the flying one is a frustrating card, especially when you're talking about taking down those big tanks. And they've also been really leaning into the Evo Inferno Dragon. So that was something that we were just talking about before this last match, is leaning into those cards that can kind of completely cut through those tanks like butter. And I like a lot of what we're seeing and the evolution of what we're seeing of their gameplay.
Well, the other thing I'm noticing, too, about the decks that Ian and Aerith have been working with, especially since that first matchup, is how much they've simplified Aerith's job, right? Yeah. So when they're running Lava Hound, Aerith is running Goblin Cage, which is a bigger building, right? More area covered, more aggro targeting than we had that Tombstone before. And then also, with that Lava deck, she's running Poison and Arrows, which are harder to mess up than some of the other decks. And on the other side, when they run Golem, she's running Bar Barrel and Lightning as her two, and they're going double Lightning in those Golem decks. So she's kind of the secondary Lightning, is my suspicion, as we'll see that, where Ian is playing Lightning first, or playing like maybe he's sticking on his Lightning and saving it for if she makes a mistake. But either way, they're kind of keeping it very simple for her on the spell side and letting her focus primarily on big, heavy troops.
And the other thing that I've liked is that they're leaning on the Mini P.E.K.K.A. a lot. A great, cheap ground tank that it does very, very high DPS. When they don't have the Infernos, they've always got that Mini P.E.K.K.A. When you talk about pairing the Mini P.E.K.K.A. with the Zappies, it's a really, really great combination of the slow, the stun, and of course that high DPS. So we'll see how this is going to shake out. And this is an exciting one. Like we said, whoever wins this next match is going to go into our finals against Juicy and Spragels. Juicy and Spragels playing this next one just for a little bit more practice, which is a great thing to have at this level. You know, when you talk about how much time these people have put into the game. And then BenTimm1 Godzly, like you said, a little bit more chaos out there, but chaos is one of those things I feel like Ian will be able to lock down pretty well. It's all about, can they take advantage of Aerith?
Well, I mean, then you get to the interesting question as we think about the team that's waiting in the wings for the victor here, is you talk about like one extra practice matchup for Juicy and Spragels. Are they prepping anything different for that finals? Are they going to ride this till the wheels come off? I'm very curious if they have something surprising for the finals. Right now, though, we have essentially our semifinal. Ian and Aerith, bottom of your screen, and BenTimm1 Godzly, and they are getting aggressive early with the Hog Skelly Barrel drop into that right-hand lane.
Yeah, and you see there, Ian, the one that's on defense, he drops the Tombstone plus Inferno. Aerith just sets up with the Lava in the back and then supports it with an Inferno Dragon. Poison on top of this Musketeer.
This looks really, really rough right now for Ben and Godzly. Musketeer gets poisoned off. They still have to handle the Inferno Dragon back there. The Bats are doing an okay job, but now Inferno Dragon thankfully goes down for them. And somehow they escape that with only minimal tower damage from what looked like it was going to be absolute disaster.
Perfect placement with that Mighty Miner there from Ian. Just gets right in between the Skellies on top of the Witch, able to use that death damage to tank on the other side and clean the Witch off the board. Excuse me, the ability to use the death damage to take care of the Witch and then move the Mighty Miner to the other side of the board.
You know, I'm very curious about this Hog Miner composition for BenTimm. You know, Ben's been in the Supercell content creator world for a long time, but I've always thought of him primarily as a Brawl Stars guy first in my head. So being here, I know he does Clash Royale content as well, but it's interesting that of all the content creators here in the Clash Royale world, he's the only one that I think that when I think of him first, I think of him from another Supercell game.
Right. And there's not a lot of crossover when you talk about the skill set between Brawl Stars and Clash Royale. So Inferno Dragon doing good work. That's a nice Vines there from Ian. Going to get some good damage in on tower.
So far, Ben and Godzly have done a really good job of not letting the Inferno Dragon run rampant. That's one of those ones that you talk about sowing chaos. An Inferno Dragon getting loose and getting too much value could be a huge problem. And here we go. Miner right now tanking for the Evo Skelly Barrel. Gets pulled to the back, and that's a huge drop, and that's going to be a ton of damage. And suddenly things have swung dramatically towards Ben and Godzly.
Yeah, Ian maybe just a little bit low on elixir because he plays the fisherman down low to pull the mighty miner, or to pull the miner away, and then can't get around to the tombstone in time. So it takes that double death damage. But now we have a pretty good counter push here coming in, and not going to have a lightning in their hands to deal with this, but poison should do a decent job. But that that witch and that musketeer are going to put in a lot of work.
And, you know, part of the problem there is Ian was super low on elixir and didn't have vines in hand. So just not quite able to deal with what came down before, and now we're getting into spell range.
Oh,
down
that
to
fisherman, Rich!
347.
The fisherman!
Oh, boy! The Benedict Arnold of Clash Royale. Thankfully, the mighty miner gets down and just barely turns the corner, but not going to be able to stop the lightning arrows. That's GG. That's well played. That's game number 1 for BenTimm1 Godzly, who have drawn first blood against a squad that has not dropped a game since our opening one.
Yeah, that was really, really well played by them. The pressure over and over. You very rarely see Ian make a mistake, and might have not even been a mistake, just low on elixir. The fish boy maybe trying to get the miner off the tower, but then doesn't realize that he needs to get something on top of that Evo skeleton barrel. And when you look at what Aerith is running, she doesn't have any good way to get on top of that barrel. She's, you know, I guess she could have played her cage, but maybe she was low on elixir. Maybe there just wasn't a good call there. So instead, the arrows have to come out late. Just a slight miscommunication or a slight elixir deficit. BenTimm1 Godzly doing a great job punishing there.
And now I think that they probably go to, so look, they could go 2 different directions. They could play it straight and go ahead and go, okay, we've burned this this chaos deck. Let's go into the double lava. We've played the double lava. But they also still have that graveyard control deck with the rocket, which, depending on what they're expecting from their opponents, you know, that graveyard control deck they've been running has a lot of splash on the ground if they expect Golem, right? So it has Bowler, it has the Dark Prince, it has a Goblin Hut to pull. It also has the slow from the Ice Wiz. It has the Baby Dragon and the Evo Witch, plus the NATO Rocket, all of that. Oh, not to mention Poison, all of that for lava. So it covers both of those directions pretty well. And I think it's going to be super duper annoying to deal with if you are on the other side here and you're looking at Aerith and Ian. I'd really love to see them go with that one more time here in game 2.
You're talking about BenTimm1 Godzly with that graveyard deck? Yeah. And then Ian and Aerith. Do you just go back to what you just ran, or do you go to your other deck in the Golem? I honestly, you maybe go to the Golem, but then keep Poison in your decks because you know that your opponent has been running that graveyard deck and you can still use Poison because you just lost with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if running the exact same thing back matches up as well against that deck from Godzly and BenTimm. The rocket value could be tough, though. If you are running that same deck back and you're able to space out your units, you're not going to get rocket value until it's already across the board. So I don't know. If I'm Ian and Aerith, I might just run the exact same deck back. But Godzly and BenTimm, very curious to see if they do go to that. I do love it. It is sheer chaos. When you look at these, it looks like 2 random decks. It really does.
Yeah, and you know what? I wonder how they reached this spot, right? Did they figure out that Godzly was more comfortable with Graveyard and go, what can we do? Build around Graveyard? And then BenTimm was just going, hey, like, I'm just going to play as much defense as possible and then try to create counter pushes behind that Graveyard, right? I'd be very curious to see what the logic was in the creation here. Also, I got to say, just seeing NATO Rocket here is kind of funny. It's like you see the ability to pull together a ton of things for value, but of all the things you expect in this situation, I didn't clock Rocket as a thing I planned on seeing today.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those cards that, you know, I actually thought we might see more of it today. Because you're thinking, I thought we'd see a lot of big beatdown pushes, and that's a great way to get a ton of value at the bridge. And it's just not something, and it makes sense because it's really, really expensive. So you don't want to, and it's really expensive and it's hard to time. So you don't really want to give it to the newer player. And then on the other side of it, when you talk about the more experienced player, you need them to have more elixir at their disposal more often because they're going to be the ones that are likely on top of big defenses. So I guess it does make sense, you know, I guess both of our thought processes, but it sure didn't show up much today at all. I mean, I feel like BenTimm1 Godzly have been pretty much the only people to run it. But BenTimm feeling confident with that. You know, when you look at that deck, it's so many pieces of the best defensive cards in the game with Bowler, Ice Wiz, NATO, Baby Drag, you know, and even that Evo MK.
If I'm Ian here, I just make some slight adjustments to cover Graveyard. And here they go. They're going to the Golem deck.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well, as like if they are going to run the Golem, since they still have poison at their disposal, maybe they just change things up a bit. And there you go.
This is it.
Graveyard
this
immediately.
Is that deck.
Oh, and the Mother Witch. That's a good call, but a really nice Vines out early.
And an early King Tower activation, which can be obviously a problem for Graveyard. And look at this on the right-hand side. Oh boy. They swung for the fences, and every once in a while, if you swing too hard, you're going to miss. Yeah, and that's a huge miss.
Exactly what we're talking about when we talk about adjusting to what your opponent has been playing, right? If you and I are both talking about BenTimm1 Godzly running a Graveyard deck, what a great adjustment to put Mother Witch in there. You give it to Aerith, you just say, play the Mother Witch down low. That's it. You don't. There's no further communication. Play it behind the left Princess Tower, and you see how effective that was. Baits out a bunch of Elixir defensively, or offensively, I should say, from Godzly and BenTimm. And then Ian and Aerith just go hyper-aggressive right-hand side. Great plays.
And that just all gets eaten alive. The Witch staying up for a minute, and they're both pretty low on Elixir. But it's going to take a lot for Godzly and BenTimm, and they have to have a solution. They have to come up with a good Graveyard push and then have a solution for that Mother Witch. The problem is they're running Poison and Rocket. So the Poison is not going to do Mother Witch fast enough. They have to get a tank across the board and then get a Prediction NATO Rocket to clear a bunch of that defense, including the Mother Witch, and then back it up with who knows what.
I don't love the hyper-aggressive Dark Prince plus Graveyard to basically start the game. I feel like you want to maybe feel things out just a little bit, especially knowing you're going up against someone like Ian. And, you know, they really got punished for it. Some decent damage in here. Looks like BenTimm leaking some Elixir, not exactly sure how he wants to defend. With only 40 seconds remaining, going to have to put together a miracle, it feels like, here in Game 2.
This might be a pull everything together and smack it around. Hope that you can keep your troops on your side of the board up. They might need to NATO Rocket here, but there's not enough. Look at that. Godzly's down to 2 Elixir. BenTimm down to 3 Elixir. They're just thirsty, and that lightning is going to put the nail in the coffin here in game number 2. Ian and Aerith giving us to a 1-game playoff for the finals.
You know, that's one thing that we have seen from Ian and Aerith that we haven't seen from a lot of other teams today, is their ability to adapt, right? We saw game 1, how it went in the beginning of the show, and then we saw game 1, how it went in the beginning of this matchup, and the great adjustments, the change of the... That's the other thing, is like, just because people are comfortable with certain cards doesn't mean you can't give them the opportunity to be to play another card, just like the Mother Witch. We haven't seen Aerith run the Mother Witch really much at all today, if at all. Yeah. And then you saw right there, boom, we know what we're running into. Let's adjust. Let's go for the hard counter. And that Mother Witch just put in work early. Mini P.E.K.K.A up high for the Dark Prince, Mother Witch down low. And then all of a sudden, you can see how aggressive BenTimm1 Godzly want to be. I think they were going, I guess, in their minds for like a tower trade situation, but you can't do that, especially when you're going up against Golem, because in a 2-tower situation with Graveyard, you're going to lose.
Yeah, it was super duper hyper aggressive, and it's one of those things too where you see hyper aggressive plays, and people talk about this in ladder all the time, right? And ranked all the time, where hey, Golem first play has been historically not a smart play, unless you're a consistent ladder player and you see the name across from you, go like, oh well, I know they run blank, which is bad against Golem first play. I can take advantage of that, or I know that my only way to win is to Golem first play. In this situation, you think you know what they're going to play, but you don't actually know. And Ian's a savvy player. He's a world finalist, makes a little adjustment there, and you just basically jumped into a pond and had no idea how deep it was. That's how you break your neck, people. You always got to know how deep the water is.
Yeah, and if I'm Ian and Aerith, I might now go back to the Lava Hound deck that worked, or that has been working for them, covers a lot of their bases still, and now you're putting BenTimm1 Godzly in a spot to where they're like, well, do I want to run Graveyard again? Do I just want to run that back? Because if they do go to Lava Hound, they've got so many great ways to counter it. I think this is definitely leaned far in favor of Ian and Aerith as this set gets to game number 3, because when you talk about being able to adjust on the fly and just kind of the understanding, the macro knowledge of the game, Ian's going to take that 10 times out of 10. I'd like to see them go maybe back to Lava Hound. And then in terms of BenTimm1 Godzly, the other stuff that they've run, Rich, is their deck pool is not super deep.
Yeah, I mean, they have this and the Lava Hound deck, and then they have a variant of this. It's Graveyard and Hog, but they already played the Hog Skelly Barrel. So, yeah, they're kind of just have to make a call. Do they go Lava, or do they go back to this one more time? And it looks like we're getting our answer.
Yeah. Hut. Wow, that is just so much spell value. I feel like BenTimm1 Godzly are already in trouble just from the beginning.
Dark Prince to pick up some of the damage coming under. The defensive poison here. You're not going to get on all the pups, but going to clean up most of it. But they're going to find themselves very behind on Elixir. Aerith now getting up to 10, and she's going to go ahead and Inferno in the back.
Yeah, 700 damage down also. That rocket, I don't know. I think Ian's probably pretty happy about that rocket. I was just waiting there for this is a lot of these creators are Tribe Gaming players represented. I was waiting. I was like, is that going to be a Chief Pat moment here? And we did not get one. And here we go. Aggressive Graveyard play to the opposite side. Wow, what an interesting Bowler plus Knight push there. Going to get some good damage in here, but they're basically sacrificing their left-hand tower for it. And again, 2-tower situation, that's okay with Graveyard. When you get into a single tower on either side, Graveyard is never going to be as effective. Poison's still in hand. I feel like this was just so easy to read for Ian. Yeah, I mean, he just went, hey, if they're going to do that, we should probably just take the other side. That would be the move. And yeah, and 1,200 HP, dude. That's a lot. That's a lot to cover. I was going to say, and if their deck pool isn't deep, we just keep the poisons in and we can cover Graveyard. And just think about that rocket they spent on the left-hand side, right? Like, you spent 6 Elixir to damage a tower that doesn't matter right now. And what are you going to do? Are you going to switch? Go, yep, they're going to switch right and try to go in on that left-hand lane. Maybe just the Mega Knight and not support it. They were trying to feint it. And they're not going to get support for the Graveyard. Yeah, and that Graveyard, I guess you're playing off to the side because of now where units spawn. You're seeing that the Skellies are getting right on top of that tower on the inside corner. Still a game, but only 23 seconds remaining. That Goblinstein might just end the conversation. Oh, and that rocket got a couple of things. It was a Chief Pat. Got a couple things, but it's not going to be able to get actually any more damage on tower in time. 6 seconds remain. Poison going to come out. Oof. And Ian and Aerith, from losing game 1 to running all the way to the finals, will run into Juicy and Spragels for our 6th match of the day. Great stuff there. Great adjustments for games 2 and 3 there from Ian and Aerith. I mean, tremendous adjustments and really calm play, right? The experience of Ian showing through, and again, we don't know Aerith really well at all, but Aerith certainly rising to the occasion, and the synergy between the two of them working well to play calm and react well to everything they saw. They reacted really well to every single thing that came down their way, and kudos to both of them from how they looked completely on different pages from game number 1 to fighting all the way, and then game 1 here in this game, looking like they were in trouble and just staying calm the whole way through. And we saw Ben and Godzly kind of get that horse to the barn syndrome. We've talked about that before, where you and I have seen less experienced players at the pro level try to close out a game too aggressively and then sell because of it. It feels like they tried to close out this series a bit aggressively and had that same sort of sell. Ian and Aerith calm and focused and in the finals. Yeah, and what I'm really curious about here is we've seen Juicy and Spragels run basically the same decks over and over and over, and we saw the great adjustments there from Ian and Aerith. It feels like this is exactly why we're getting these 4 players in our finals. The question is can Juicy and Spragels, you know, tried and true decks actually play through the idea of Ian countering them, because Ian is able to counter with very small changes, right? He's not changing a whole lot. He's just changing some small things. Like, honestly, it could just be something like throwing in a rocket that he's in control of, like a rocket NATO, or maybe even something like an Evo Wizard. We haven't seen really any Evo Wizard at all today. And it's one of those cards with its buff recently with that NATO pull.
Yeah.
It could be really, really effective against these beatdown decks. So I'm curious to see. I bet you will see a lot of the same out of Juicy and Spragels in game 1. Will Ian and Aerith try to adjust right off the bat?
Let's take a look at the standings and get it official here to get ready for our grand finals, as we have 2 squads that both went undefeated.
Wow.
5-0 for Juicy and Spragels, 5-0 for Ian and Aerith. Slightly better win percentage for Juicy and Spragels, but both squads coming out hot with it. And we have a true grand final of the undefeateds. Only one team will end up 6-0 on the day, and they will be our true center stage champions in the spotlight and ready to face the lights. What a day, what a game. And you know, I'm very, you know, we talked about these decks, Andrew. I'm curious if they'll actually bring any surprises here. Does either squad have anything unique or surprising or different under their sleeve, or are they just gonna ride the train that got them here?
Man, it feels a little risky to change things up, but if you're gonna do it, I think you just do it in game number 1. Honestly, like right off the bat, hit them in the mouth when they're not expecting it. You know, it's just so hard to say when you look at the decks that have been run by Ian and Aerith and Juicy and Spragels. When you talk about those things like hyper bait or something like that, we haven't really seen any log today. We've seen a little bit of bar barrel here and there, so the idea of hyper bait, but that's not really Juicy's style of play anyway.
Yeah.
He does like to go heavier. You know, he's a graveyard E-Giant player. You know, historically, obviously, as the meta shifted, he's shifted his gameplay as well. I think you kind of just go, if I'm Juicy and Spragels, I run one of my 2 decks that have worked to start things off. If I'm Ian and Aerith, I think you kind of go for some sniping right off the bat. I think you change up just a little bit of what you've had. We saw it work really well in that last matchup. I think that's maybe you kind of go for broke, if you will, in game 1, just looking for that nice snipe.
Yeah, I think that you might try to go for something in that range. And you know that Ian has been looking at deck pools. He's clearly looking at people's decks and making adjustments there. So you have to imagine he's looking at what's been good for Juicy and Spragels all day and going, okay, let me make some slight little tweaks here and there to try to steal this win, try to get this one done. Other side, I wonder if Juice and Spragels are going to do anything different. There's something to be said for not just doing something really well, but clearly they're communicating well, right?
Yeah.
Clearly they have a rhythm going, and not disrupting that can be really valuable as well. So they'll go one way or the other with it, and the only way to find out is when we get to our finals here in just a couple of minutes. And a finals being played for a pretty significant grand prize, $75,000 overall for this event. And the winner here splitting $13.5K for those 2. Not too bad for a Friday afternoon, Andrew.
Not bad at all. Going to get to our grand finals in just a minute, but first, a little treat for you guys, a halftime show.
Goons and goblins, welcome to the Clash Royale halftime show. Finally, on the halftime stage, King Carter himself, Lil Wayne!
A millionaire, I'm a young money millionaire, tougher than Nigerian hair. My criteria compared to your career just isn't fair. I'm a real disease, like a bleed through the a pencil and leak on the sheet of the tablet in my mind. Cause I don't write, cause I ain't got time. Cause my seconds, minutes, hours go to the almighty dollar and the almighty power of that chopper. Sister, brother, son, daughter, father, mother. Papa got the Maserati dancing on the bridge. Pop, and tell the coppers, you can't catch him, you can't stop him. I go by them gurus. If you can't beat them, then you pop them. You can't man them, then you mop them. You can't stand them, then you drop them. You pop them, cause we pop them like mother, I'm ill. Yeah. A million here, a million there. Sicilian with long hair, with coconut devil gear, like smoking the thinnest air. I open the Lamborghini, hoping them to see me. Like, look at that Weezy. He's a beast, he's a dog, he's the motherfucking problem. Okay, you're a goon, but what's a goon to a goblin? Nothing. You ain't spending nothing. Get bored, call him Dennis Rodman. Call me with your own. Just call me on my sidekick. Never answer with it's private. Damn, I hate a shot. Don't you hate the shot? Yeah, I hate the shot. She ain't shy no more. She changed her name to Map. Yeah, it is Map. So when she asks for the money, when you through, don't be surprised. And it ain't trickin' if you got it. But you like it with no clean guy. I'm ill, not sick. And I'm okay, but my watch sick. Yeah, my drop sick. Yeah, my sick. Am I not thick? I'm it. I'm it.
Number one, we ain't us without you. Number two, I ain't me without you. Number three, I ain't me without us. I love you.
Thank you!
And what a show for our halftime break. I know that I've listened to that song pretty much in my top 10 for many years back in the day. And what a fun way to celebrate this wonderful center stage with an icon on the Clash Royale stage.
Absolutely, man. Having Wheezy and Clash Royale, the collab that we never saw coming, hits me like right in my feels. All the nostalgia that I need. Just like you said, I have listened to the Carter, his albums, that song. Yeah. I don't want to say a million times because it's like the lamest cringe dad joke ever, but I basically just did, you know?
I mean, look, are we going to get the Wheezy emote? Is that in the works as part of this?
Please.
Either
That'd be
way.
Amazing.
I just want to give a shout out to all the archers and barbarians for the hard work they put in learning the choreography. The giant maybe was a little bit cumbersome up there on stage, but everyone else like just really locked in on that performance.
He's a big dude, you know. He's just trying to move things around as best as he can. You know, he tried his best, as they say.
Well, speaking of trying their best, we've had two squads who have been the best on the day, both sides 5-0, as we prepare for our championship matchup here between, on one side, Ian77, a world finalist, and his partner Aerith, who started off as weak as can be and have turned into an absolute behemoth. And on the other side, almost perfect from bell to bell, Juicy, our longtime friend and co-commentator in Clash Royale, and his partner Spragels. And I called it top of the show. I said I think these two will be magic together, and here we are in the championship. I am not surprised to see them here.
Yeah, and I'm also not surprised to see Ian out of it, right? When you talk about the best players in the world, Ian's really the only one in the conversation that is in this event, right? Yes. So when you talk about his macro understanding of matchups, his ability to snipe or counter snipe in terms of just changing one or two things to not throw too many things at his partner, right? Just one or two cards can change the entire makeup of the match. And then also the communication. You know, Juicy and Ian, they make a lot of content. They stream a lot. They're both very calm dudes. So it makes sense they'd be very good at coaching their respective partners. So here we go. The grand finals, center stage, grand finals here. Our 2v2, the final best of 3 of the day. 1 loss, the bottom of your screen, 2 losses at the top of your screen on the entire day. And Rich, we are seeing exactly what you talked about. a switch up, but a switch up on both sides.
Well, this is interesting. Juicy and Spragels, I didn't realize this before, but Spragels has been running the miner in their lava deck. So really, really fascinating. I didn't realize that they were giving, what a play to give miner to the less experienced player.
Yeah, and then Skeleton King coming out for Ian here, kind of like his own mini little graveyard. And now we got the Inferno tanking for the pups. Big damage done early here for Aerith and Ian.
Yeah, a little early on those arrows from Spragels. So did a good job, got the miner into the safe spot, but then early on the arrows, and a lot of that damage can come back to just having them come out before the pop.
Perfect timing there and placement on the Lava Hound to soak up that last shot. Now Lava goes to Lava, but a Spirit Empress behind. Gonna maybe try to distract the Spirit Empress. No, Spirit Empress is on the tower. So you have to see an immediate reset there from Juice to get the vines in to get the retargeting out. Some big mistakes here early from Spragels and Juicy. Maybe feeling the pressure of our grand finals as we see Aerith leaking Elixir right now.
Yeah, Aerith was chilling on that for a while, and that might have been Ian just saying, hey, hold on here. We're in great spots. Let's just play defense.
Yeah, and I love that call. Tower down early here for, I guess, what you could call the underdogs just because they lost one more game than Juicy and Spragels throughout the day.
And look at the smart call on Juice and Spragels' part to tank that Inferno Dragon damage, knowing that with the double cannon, it wouldn't get too high, and their only way they can win this is by getting an Elixir advantage here. But I don't think it'll be enough with this minute left, and Aerith and Ian sitting pretty.
Yeah, cage down is good. Unit to get on the board, gonna obviously be a defensive building, but also you get a unit to pop from it, so you can just, it's a great hold and wait card. Big push kind of coming in here. Maybe an ability. No.
Well, I'm wondering, too, if Juicy had been the one playing miner instead of Spragels, if that would have gone to the back to pull all the defensive troops out of the way and get tower connections.
And that's going to do it, man. There's really no way to break through in the next 20 seconds when you look at how even the Elixir is. Technically, Aerith and Ian at a slight advantage. Ian just goes play that Goblin Cage on the board, keep taking up space, and look at that. Game one in the books. Juicy and Spragels running into a brick wall.
Wow, and you know, it's just a couple of key mistakes early on. A lot of damage early from the arrows getting missed, and then it just got worse and worse as time went on. And Ian and Aerith now one away from being our center stage champions.
Yeah, the arrows being missed, the Spirit Empress somehow getting on tower. I mean, her range is still one of the more difficult things because she's not super popular in the meta and she has a long range. So it makes sense that the interactions or the amount of time you've had to work against her interactions is just a little bit less than some of those other cards out there. So then the Vines has to come out. And as we know in 2v2, anytime you have to overspend on defense, it always puts you in trouble to defend again and to ever get back on offense because your opponent, especially someone like Ian, is going to recognize, and Rich, you kind of called it, if they're going to waste Elixir defensively, Aerith, you can just hold your Elixir for a moment, leak a little bit of Elixir and see exactly what they're going to do so we can play the exact perfect response. And that's exactly what happened throughout that game. A great pickup and a great adjustment here from Ian once again. Ian and Aerith.
Well, and this is going to answer a lot of questions about Juicy and Spragels in our final two matches here, because so far, Ian and Aerith have played two decks, Lava Hound and Golem. Yeah. They can't play Lava Hound again, so you have to expect they're going to go to Golem. So either they have some sort of swerve here that's going to completely catch everyone off guard and be a big moment, or they're going Golem. And if, I mean, are Juicy and Spragels prepared and ready to come up with some sort of snipe for this Golem deck? Do they have that? Can they make that adjustment? Or are they just going to go, hey man, we've been doing this, we're getting a bunch of money anyway, let's just play what we're comfortable with and keep on going?
I'm trying to like look at Ian's decks that he's played, and I love that he's just playing real ladder matches in between. He's like, let's get the practice in. So here we go, game two. This could be it. Can Juicy and Spragels bounce back, or will Ian and Aerith just take it? And there you go, right off the bat, double Golem in the back, both going down the right-hand lane. There's the Evo Xe, as you expect to see with Ian and Eric's Golem decks. Aerith's Golem decks, you're going to expect to see Lightnings as well, Zappies. But is there going to be an adjustment? Last time we saw the Mother Witch worked in. And that is
And so
great
far-
poison value.
So far, absolutely no change on the side of Juicy and Spragels here. Yeah, and killer defense. And right now, Aerith very low on Elixir. Ian has 6. He's doing okay.
Yeah, they're definitely down just a little bit. But they have the Baby Dragon on the board. Maybe they just soak the damage to kind of even things up. Yep, and there we go. Golem down. All right, so we
double
saw the
chefs.
first little battle here at the bridge. How are things going to change here as we move through? This is where I'm curious. Will we see an adjustment from Ian and Aerith? Did maybe a rocket come out?
Well, look at this.
Imagine
too.
a rocket right there.
Yeah, right. Well, look at the double chef onto the golem for Aerith and Ian, but splitting the chef up between 2 different targets on the side of Juicy and Spragels.
That was a great snipe. Lightning plus Phoenix for Ian and Aerith, but definitely taking a bit of damage here on the right-hand side, but they should have, I don't know, counter push not great with such low elixir in hand.
And the Zappy's able to probably get something in front of this, maybe out to the right-hand side. Nope, going to let the Zappies go ahead and get eaten alive by the Exy, and poof, just barely. That's a cheeky NATO play. It's going to get some damage there, but I don't know if that's worth it. Is that enough damage for it to be worth it?
Gets 2 tosses. I mean, it's tough. Obviously, in a huge elixir advantage now are Juicy and Spragels, but that was a lot of damage in to kind of even things up. 1462 for Ian and Aerith, who have a game in hand. 1057 for Juicy and Spragels fighting for their life.
Smart poison. It's going to get some good value on those Zappies and on the tower.
Wow, drops the Evo Electro Dragon just right in that poison, does Juicy.
No second level for Juicy and Spragels. 1057 to 1278. Ian and Aerith on the cusp. And I don't think they go for another Exy NATO here.
Oh, just maybe Golem up again in the back. Exy's getting tanked for, so now goes Golem at the bridge. Hyper-aggressive Golem. Mini P.E.K.K.A. and Dark Prince to meet, though.
Great Evo Baby Dragon to slow all this down.
Maybe a little too aggressive there was Ian and Aerith. We'll see how they play this defense out. Mini P.E.K.K.A. putting in work for them, though. And a nice lightning to kind of clean everything up. Going to need something for that Baby Drag. No, Zappy's going to do just enough. 11:44, 9:58. 1 minute and 40 seconds remain.
And really even on Elixir, too. Very, very
in
even
front.
on Elixir. Yeah.
Interesting.
That might have not have been the thing.
Yep, and there's great poison value once again. And I think Ian and Aerith are happy to just keep playing this game over and over, baiting out spells at the bridge as opposed to getting spell value on the tower. And that gap is just widening. Oh, the Golem is on the tower. That's huge, Rich. They got to pull it back. Yep.
Wow.
Golem's going to get there still.
Wow.
That's it.
GG. Oh, my.
Wow.
From the L to the W, Ian and Aerith, your center stage Clash Royale champions.
Unbelievable. I mean, the way the day starts, you're like, man, Ian and Aerith, I guess this duo is not going to work out. You never know what you're going to get. With a content creator from a different game, they turn things around and go on an incredible run to be our center stage champions. What a great day for those two.
Absolute scenes as they just put it on. And, you know, it's the consistency, Andrew. This became so consistent. And they didn't do anything fancy, didn't go for big plays, just were like, hey, let's just keep it simple the entire way through, and able to come out here at the end and get this like very dominant victory to take our championship.
Yeah, really, really surprising there. I mean, the small adjustments. I mean, even just throwing, I don't even know how effective the Skeleton King change was in that first game, really. We didn't see its ability pop off or anything, but it was just these small little things that you know Ian's brain was working and just changing just a little bit to see those matchups lean in his favor over and over. And as we saw in that game, the poison value time and time again as their opponents are trying to build up big pushes, whether it's at the bridge they could stop things or getting that tower damage throughout. The lightnings were just kind of ineffective from Juicy and Spragels as time went on. And again, we talked about at the top of the show, you don't need to take the tower immediately, but if you get a golem to the tower or the lava hound to the tower, and the pups or the death damage plus the golemites can just do a little bit over and over, we just saw that gap widen and widen and widen until it was just too much. And you know, nerves, you have to imagine that like throughout the middle of the day, there wasn't a lot of nerves from either the experienced or the new player, but you get to the finals and mistakes start to happen.
Oh yeah, and you start to think of like, hey, oh, this is an expensive game of Clash Royale. This one is like, hey, I mean, I either get half my rent this month from Clash Royale or all my rent this month from this next upcoming best of 3. So there's it's certainly, we've talked about that stress coming there at the end.
Oh yeah.
But you know, we also, you know, you think about the patience shown by Ian and Aerith, and I come back again to that game 1 scenario in the final match where they got ahead, and then very clearly they pumped the brakes. Ian was like, yo, just hold. Just hold. Yep. And they just held and didn't try to do too much there, and just kind of locked it down, locked the gates. And for our other squad, for Juice and Spragels, they were now trying to play catch up, and that's what they found themselves in over and over again, playing catch up with a super heavy deck with very little elixir flowing and very little time. All those pieces together meant that's a wrap, son.
Yeah, and not a lot of adjustments there when you talk about changing up their decks throughout the day. It worked time and time again, but when you get into your grand finals, I think you do have to change things up just a little bit. And before we wrap our show, there's one more chance for you guys to grab those rewards just in case you missed them throughout the day or yesterday. Make sure to scan that QR code, get your 3 lucky chest drops. Rich and I both got some great rewards. I got a couple of Evo shards. The drops have been really good for me lately. I don't know if it's just luck, but I've definitely been very happy with them. And yeah, I mean, what a great day. What a great way to start our year. You know, we're always happy to have Clash Royale back every single year. I think these events are super nice because it's like a nice easing into the year before just like hopping into CRL and the highest level of competitive play. We get to get people back to watching, hearing the commentating, and this was so fun to see the crossover between, you know, we had our Boomers versus Zoomers event in the past, but now to have ones from different games coming in with experienced players, super cool stuff to see here in 2v2.
Big thanks to every one of you watching and playing along at home. We hope you've really enjoyed this. If you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel, like the stream, make sure notifications are on so that you never miss a moment of Clash Royale action. Always such cool stuff right here on the channel. For everybody here, the squad in the booth making for a great show today. All the content creators streaming on their own channels and playing here for you. My brother Andrew Guy, I'm Rich Slayton. We'll see you next time right back here for more Clash Royale.